an Arizona no-show.
Disappointed in Arizona. I mean, Michigan we know is a good team. They didn't do anything special that game. Michigan was Michigan, and Arizona looked like I don't know, like Missouri. They look like K-State at times.
You know how they didn't look like Missouri? Here's my own. This is self-deprecating, right? This gallows humor. You ready for this, Jack and Michael? You guys will laugh at this. You know how Arizona didn't look like Missouri?
Because they made a Final Four.
They were playing in the Final Four. Sorry about that, Mizzou fans. That's you know, that's a shot at ourselves. That's you know what I did? I just B-rabbited that. You guys can't make fun of me. I made fun of myself. Here's the mic. Tell them something about me that they don't already know. Go ahead.
But it looked like how Missouri a lot of times would come out flat in games. Arizona came out flat. They were flat. They were. I mean, down the stretch, obviously at the very end, the last 5 minutes, Michigan just started to pour it on. They could not miss. But the first 30-plus minutes, Arizona looked like they didn't want to be there. I've never seen a team playing in a Final Four look defeated and just didn't care. It was I mean, if I was an Arizona fan, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, you make a Final Four. Yeah. You have a chance to go to the championship game, and your guys look like they don't care or want to be there.
But the Arizona fans were pissed that the Final Four was in Indianapolis and not Las Vegas. So they didn't really want to be there either, let's be honest.
It was just weird. I mean, I don't know if you guys had the same takeaway or not, but it felt like a lot of the guys, the players, it felt like they didn't care about playing.
Yeah, I will say that while impressed with Michigan's dominance, I was more disappointed in what felt like an Arizona no-show, Jack.
You know, I might play devil's advocate here.
Let's do it. Be the devil.
I think you have to give Michigan credit, of course, for the final score in this one. But also, I mean, I thought Arizona looked shell-shocked because Michigan made them play poorly.
Yeah.
I know that here locally we hear Bill Self say all the time, you know, I want to play well, but I want to make my opponent play poorly. And that's how you win a lot of these games. And Arizona, all season long, had not faced any game like that. Because, of course, they were, 35-2 or 36-2? Their two losses were in Lawrence against Kansas, where KU was down the majority of that game, and then Texas Tech at home, which kind of felt like it just bled over into that game, and it still was very, very close at the very end. They had not been punched in the mouth like that, and it's why sometimes it's weird in college basketball, because we saw with UConn a couple of times this year, they got punched in the mouth and lost by 20-plus points. And in the Big East championship game, that was the outcome in the St. John's.
They got dominated by Rick and St. John's in that game.
Destroyed by St. John's. And it happened earlier in the year as well, and they lost to Creighton at home. When you get punched in the mouth like that, sometimes those experienced and seasoned and veteran teams, they know how to respond after a poor start. I don't know if I could go back over any of their previous 38 games and find a slow start for Arizona or a stretch where they just did not look good whatsoever. Michigan, they played pretty well toward the back half of that, but I thought they punched Arizona in the mouth so hard, where this was an Arizona team that really hadn't dealt with much adversity other than Koa Pete's injury, at some point in Big 12 play where they missed him for a little bit, lost back-to-back games. It's not to say I'd rather lose by 20 points in the regular season, but you know that showed me that Arizona team was just not used to a situation like that on a stage like that. In Michigan, they capitalized on them. They saw them bleed a little bit and then absolutely continued to gash them over and over and over again.
Yeah, and maybe it's my rooting interest that I was waiting all day for that game, that all week long, and I talked about it on the show a little bit in that, you know, there was some people, it was like, man, I wish Saturday night's encore was actually the national championship game on Monday.
Yeah.
And what I said to that was, while we can wish that, at least we get to see it. Because if they were on opposite sides of the bracket, it would take one upset for us to go, man, we never got Michigan and Arizona, and how great that game would have been. Let's say Arizona gets upset by UConn.
Yeah.
And it's Michigan, and the Michigan wins by 25 tonight. And you go, pfft. Yep, that upset by Arizona. Michigan may have lost to Arizona. It was just a bad matchup. We could come away with different things. The way that I remember in 2015 when it was leading up to Duke versus Kentucky, Kentucky was 38-0, and it was like, here we go, Duke, Kentucky in the national championship.
Right?
Wisconsin upset Kentucky, and we're like, damn. We didn't get that game where we had these freshmen going up against each other, Justice Winslow and Jaleel Okafor and Karl Anthony Towns and Devin Booker, and it was like, man, Tyus Jones versus the Jones twins or whatever. Like it was Willie Cauley-Stein.
Yeah.
You know, this was going to be a
lot
great,
of big guys.
Yeah, it was going to be a great matchup that we never got.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? At least we get this game on Saturday night because we get to watch it. And so maybe it was my build-up and leading up to that Arizona never answered the bell. As you said, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth, as Tyson said, and Arizona could not respond. And they are a team that when you fall behind by that many points, they aren't necessarily built to get back in the game because they don't shoot the ball that well. They've got Burries that shoots it well, and that's really it, and he went 2 of 10. He wasn't knocking down shots. And Michigan was. Michigan goes 12 of 27 from behind the arc and, hits the 12 threes, knocking them down early, and Arizona never, ever responded. So I am impressed by what Michigan did because no team has done that to Arizona this year. And there have been plenty of good teams they have faced off against, and no team has just dismantled them the way that Michigan did. So maybe I'm more upset and disappointed in Arizona because of the anticipation leading up to that game and almost waiting through the UConn-Illinois game that, I wanted Illinois to win, and we're watching. I'm like, all right, cool. Now we get the chain smokers. And then we get the big game, right? We had been waiting all day for chain smokers.
Chain smoking, waiting to watch this game.
So pumped that we got the chain smokers. Maybe that took Arizona's.
I wish this game would have been closer.
I think that's a chain smoker joke. I'm going to go with it that it is. But Michigan leads into this game that now, we talk about more disappointed or more impressed by Michigan. I think UConn is going to have to play their best game of the season to beat Michigan. Because to me, tonight's game, Sterling, and again, maybe I'm missing the mark because of having the recency bias by what I saw Michigan do to Arizona, and really what Michigan has done this entire run. They've won by 21, 23, 13, 33, and then 18 in which they were up by 30 with 10 and a half minutes to go. And they ended up winning by 18. But they were up 30. It was almost back-to-back 30-point victories in the Elite Eight and Final Four for Michigan. This feels like if Michigan plays their game, they will win the game.
I would agree, and Michigan's done this all year long. Mm-hmm. The thing I've pointed out with UConn the past two games, they've beaten really good teams and have not shot the ball exceptionally well. They
started off against Illinois knocking down threes.
They did, and then they got cold. Caravan was 1 of 7.
Yep.
DeMar was 1 of 6. Mm-hmm. It was nice to see Solo Ball finally do something because he'd been struggling.
Yeah.
But
Mullins was good.
4 of 7. But if you tell me that Mullins goes 4 of 7 in a game from 3, you're like, yeah, that seems about right. Mm-hmm. That's what his role is on that team. They had so many open looks. Underwood's a great coach. Hurley coached circles around him. He coached circles around Shire. I've never seen that many open threes drawn up. And it was incredible. It wasn't just ball movement. It was drawn up open shots, and they wouldn't all go in. Obviously, they shot 35%, but the amount of open looks that UConn got was astounding. So if they hit some shots tonight, if they shoot 43% from 3 instead of 36 or instead of 20, whatever it was against Duke, they'll be in this game because they are, as you mentioned, they have some veteran guys in Caravan. They can go down low with Terrace Reed. I was shocked that Krivas got just bullied by Mara the way he did. Mara just absolutely gave him the business in that game.
Hey, look, another European player.
But I will also say...
It's kind of the theme of this tournament, right? Anyway, as a quick aside, but go ahead, Sterling.
If Solo Ball can play like he did against Illinois and not how he's done earlier in the tournament, then yes, I think UConn has more upside. But it has to be a little bit of a lower scoring game. It can't get into the 90s. If you get into the 90s, even if you shoot well like UConn, if they shoot better, I don't think you're competing with Michigan in the 90s.
If Mara limits Reed, I think there's a pretty small chance that UConn is able to win the game tonight.
But Reed is way more athletic than Mara.
That's what I'm saying. If Mara limits him.
Foul trouble is what I'm getting at. Yeah.
If Mara limits him, I don't think UConn can shoot it well enough to stay in the game against Michigan. That also shoots it really well. That takes way more threes in the game than UConn does. I mean, we're talking about almost 50% of Michigan's shots are behind the arc, where UConn beats Duke by taking 18 more two-point attempts than threes, and then playing against Illinois, they took 4 more threes than twos. That's not their game. They are middle of the pack in the country.
They're of wide open looks, though. I mean,
I agree. I'm not saying that they were bad shots because they were making them, but that's not necessarily their game. Is to shoot a bunch of threes. It's to play more inside out, and they do knock down the threes at a decent clip. But they also are one of the best assist teams in America while not shooting a bunch of threes, which shows you how well they move the basketball and set guys up.
4 turnovers.
Yeah, that's
They
a big
don't
point.
turn the.
When was the
turn the
first
ball over.
turnover in the second half?
It was the second half.
Yeah.
It was back to back.
Yeah. They were talking about like neither team has turned the ball over, and then I think Keaton had the ball ripped from him. Like, oh well, there's one turnover there. I don't think UConn, and this is where I think Michigan has the advantage, is they can win different ways. If Michigan comes out quickly and hits a number of threes, I don't think UConn, Jack, wants to then get into a three-point contest with Michigan. They have to play disciplined, which Dan Hurley's a hell of a coach, so they probably will play disciplined. But I don't think they want to get involved in an up-and-down game that Michigan wants to play. But UConn also needs to find times to press or to push the ball to not then play everything in the half court against Michigan. So it's going to have to be a disciplined, really well-played and efficient game for UConn. That's just what they're going up against in Michigan.
There will be these small windows throughout the game where UConn just has to take advantage of poor play from Michigan. It happens in every college basketball game, even with the greats. We saw on Saturday night, Arizona played poorly from the majority of that game, but when they did, when they had some really awful stretches, Michigan almost always capitalized on it. Now, Michigan could have been seen as the favorite in that one. To me, they were so neck and neck. But with this type of game where we know Michigan on paper and what we've seen this season is the better team, UConn cannot afford to have Michigan go 1 for 8 in a stretch and then you go 1 for 8. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to capitalize on all of those moments because let's be real here. This Michigan roster is built like one I've really never seen. They're long, they're athletic, they're fast, they're physical. I mean, yes, there have been some teams that could match that, but I'm trying to erase and not let the bias play into it, what we saw on Saturday night and not let it dictate my opinion on this game. Because we have seen before teams play outside their mind in one game. It leads you into the next one. You go, well, if they can beat Arizona by 30+, then they should be able to beat this UConn team who's lost a couple of games this year by 20+, right? It makes all the sense in the world. Then you look at the line in Vegas, and they're only a 6.5-point favorite. Mm-hmm. I do expect UConn to keep this thing close, and I don't want to overlook a top dog playing a really good team, but yet the nation's going, they should beat them comfortably, right? Because everybody remembers what happened Saturday night, and when you have that pressure of, if you can do that to Arizona, you should be able to hammer UConn. It's also a UConn team that's playing for their 3rd national championship in 4 years. You would be dumb to overlook them. Whether they were a 2 seed, a 1 seed, or a 10 seed, it's Dan Hurley that you're going up against. And Dusty May knows that, and I'm sure that his guys are going to be ready to go. Both these teams are going to be ready to go tonight, that's for sure.
I think you'll feel dumb either way. If you take Michigan, and I know what the line is, but it feels like either Michigan's going to roll by 20, or we're going to look back and say, well, why the bleep did you go against Dan Hurley and UConn in a final? Like, why would you go against them? I don't think there's an in-between. Like, I know the line is 6.5 now. Yeah. And maybe Vegas knows way more, that they'll probably nail it. But it feels like Michigan's going to go, well, they beat everyone by 20. Of course they won by 20. Or it's, of course UConn won. Yeah. It's Dan Hurley.
It could also be a Michigan is keeping UConn at arm's length by 12 or 13 or 14 the whole game, and then UConn loses by 6. It's like, see, they covered the spread, but did they keep it close throughout the game, or did they just simply cover the spread? We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. I want to talk about how Michigan was built because there are a lot of opportunities for all 3 of the local teams. The portal opens tomorrow for only 2 weeks. It's half the time than it typically is. They changed that rule in the middle of the season this year, so the portal opening tomorrow for 2 weeks. There's a new name in the portal as of an hour ago, and that is Bryson Tiller, who's now in the portal. Flory's in the portal. We'll talk about what I think it means by Tiller putting his name in the portal today and what it could mean for Kansas over the next couple of weeks. And we will look at this Michigan team, and I want to look at what Dusty May did in the offseason and how that may or may not relate or translate to what the local teams can do. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
As we've been talking about, the final college basketball game is tonight, and FanDuel is giving all customers a profit boost. Build a same-game parlay for a shot at bigger payouts, or try live betting and jump in after tip-off. Best of all, with FanDuel, you get paid instantly when you win. Yeah, I think we'll feel dumb either way, but I did okay. We split last time around in the final 4 games. I'll roll with UConn with the points. Dan Hurley was drawing up so many open looks. Give me UConn. I think they cover against Michigan. You can follow me. You can fade me and watch as Michigan wins by 20. That's the fun part about this. Choice is all up to you. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/local to get started. That's FanDuel.com/local to claim your first profit boost and keep the action going from now until the final game tonight. FanDuel.
21 plus and present in Missouri. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy, Jack Johnson hanging out with us here on this Monday edition. We knew Flory Badunga's in the transfer portal as of, Thursday night. Bryson Tiller enters the transfer portal today. P.J. Haggerty entering the transfer portal today. Abdi Bashir entered it, over the weekend. We know about Ant Robinson entering the transfer portal last week. None of those are a surprise. The one, I shouldn't say none of those are a surprise. The P.J. Bashir, Ant portal, Flory portal, not a surprise. The takeaway I have with Bryson Tiller is he enters the portal today, one day before it opens. And I think, at least my reading of the situation is, kind of feels like they didn't come to an agreement that he was good with in the money, and so he's deciding to test the open market, test the free agent waters out there. Because if he just wanted to immediately go, I'm going to enter the portal and see what everybody else is going to offer me, then I think he would have done it earlier. I think entering the portal this late is, I don't think KU is offering me my value. Maybe they're holding out the money for Stokes, and if I'm not going to get the money that I feel like I'm valued, or my agent is telling me that other schools might offer, well, then I'm going to go in the portal and see what I can get offered there. Because I do think Tiller was probably one of the priorities that Kansas would have liked to retain. And entering the portal today gives me an idea that I think they tried, couldn't come to an agreement, and maybe it's because they have resources allocated for somebody else.
Bryson, more like bye, son, because you're gone, dude. I mean, you were going to be a starter on Kansas and be a guy, and that's not good enough. At some point, where college basketball's at, I mean, I'm a Mizzou alum. I can admit that Kansas is about the pinnacle of college basketball.
How big of you to admit that Kansas is a blue blood?
Sorry, stones of me, I know. But the point remains,
I can admit
if
that
you
the sun
are a
comes out every
starter
day.
and you are going to be a main cog on that team, and that's not good enough, where are we at as a society? I mean, where are we at, seriously, as college basketball? But, like, it makes no sense to me. This is asinine. This is absurd. Kansas, the University of Kansas basketball can't keep Flory or Bryson. I know Flory's out there asking allegedly for an absurd amount, and then again we've heard that maybe that number is being blown up, and it doesn't matter. The point remains, it's absurd where we were at when guys like Flory and Bryson, Kansas can't keep those guys. They were starters. I know it's not Zuby, where Zuby was a backup. They brought someone else in to play over him. These guys were going to be starters, and quite frankly, I think Bryson, they wanted him to be a starter last year. But Bryson was too passive. We talked about it. Dude wasn't aggressive enough. He's more aggressive in the off-season than in season. That's the issue.
You know, it's a situation now in college basketball, though, where I just don't think it matters too much to be a starter on a good team. You want to be, some guys do, they want to be the star. They don't want to have to be the second or third option. They don't want to be the guy averaging 10 and 9, even though it's a really good stat line on a top 25 team. I mean, if KU lands Tyron Stokes, Bryson Tiller could be the number 5. I think that'd be a nice 4 or 5 that you could have in at the starting lineup. But he doesn't want to wait around to see that. He might want to go somewhere else right now and be the 18 and 12 guy, if he can be that, depending on what school he chooses. It's what college basketball is now. There really is not going to be a player that sticks around for 3 to 4 years. When you did have a season like Bryson Tiller, I mean, 10 years ago, that's that typical big that Bill Self has that looks really good as a freshman, develops more as a sophomore, all-conference guy by his junior year. And don't get it twisted. Bryson Tiller is going to be really good. He's going to be that guy in a year or two, maybe, as early as next year, where KU fans go, man, that would be nice to have Bryson Tiller back. We know he's going to have a Zuby Ejiofor-type season for somebody out there, but you also can't keep getting into this game over and over again of, well, we want $2 million or $3 million, because you can't pay your starting 5 that much money. You have to disperse it out a little bit, because what has KU not had the last 5 seasons, or probably less than that, more so 3? A good bench.
Yeah.
You need to have more depth there, and putting all your money into keeping Badunga, keeping Bryson Tiller. I mean, it might work out for one of those guys, but I can't see a world where both those guys come back to KU for what they're asking for. This was to be expected, and I'm curious who's going to get the money bag in front of him and say, we're willing to give you anything because you can be our 18 and 12 guy.
I think a part of it also could be, he's there at Kansas for a couple of years, and is he – because it could be just, okay, I want the most money. Could also be, well, I want the most money, but I also would like to play a certain way. And you know what? I can dictate and go out, and I've got the freedom and the power to go and say this school or that school or Bill Self, how I'm being used here versus how I want to be somewhere else. He could have been the star, or he could have been told, yeah, we're going to use you the same way. You'll be a stretch four. You do some of these things. We'd like you to, play more inside. And he could be getting conversations with his agent from other schools that are, well, no, we'll allow you to do this, or you think you're this type of player. It might be being sold a bill of goods, but it could also be part of the calculus of why to transfer somewhere. The money's certainly a big part of it, but also could be the style of play and what type of offense he wants to be in. He chose Kansas. He's been there a couple of years, and now we'll see what he wants to do somewhere else.
I think
if he returns to
the
Kansas.
lights were too bright. That's what it comes down to. The last 5 games. So we're talking the tournament and then obviously Big 12 tournament. 5 games, 22 points. He's starting. He's playing a lot of minutes. It's not like he's a bench guy. He averaged just over less than 4.5 points a game.
Something like that.
I mean,
he got benched in the what game was it? Arizona State, maybe.
You shot 0% in
Arizona State.
4 of the games, 0%, 20%, 28.6%, 0%. That screams big time money. That screams, hey, let me test the market, dude. You are a career 26.9% 3-point shooter, and you apparently want the ball more to shoot more threes. Because you were good when you were aggressive.
Yeah.
When you were aggressive, you're a good player.
But I think you could look at it that way, but you can also look at it like, is he going to be the same exact player next year? Like, Trent Pierce got a decent amount of money to stay at Missouri.
Sure.
Because he was going to be really coveted as a senior, too. I mean, he went from 25% to 3 years later, he's a 40% three-point shooter at, 6'10", 6'11", however long the wingspan is. I think it's just like the NBA or high school recruiting of this is what he is, this is what he offers, this is the potential there, and we get him in here and work with him this way or that way, and we can make him out to be this player. We see what he did for the majority of the season, what happened the last 5 games. And
Light's too bright.
Yeah, but I don't think if that was the case, then he would have entered the transfer portal earlier. If it was just Kansas didn't believe in him and Bill Self was like, this guy, no thank you, go somewhere else, he would have entered the transfer portal earlier. They wanted him back. They clearly were talking,
Sure.
and that's why he, enters the portal today. Is it a certain playing style or money? Maybe it's greed. Maybe it's just let me see what I can get. Flory did it a year ago. Flory's doing it this year. Bryson could do it this year and then return to Kansas. It could be Bill Self saying, well, this is what we'll offer you. You can go and see if somebody's going to offer you more. We want you back. We've made you a priority. This is what we can give you. But if somebody offers you more, come back. And we'll see if we can match it and, have a discussion there. But I understand what you want to do, but make sure we're in the discussion as well because we're the ones that gave you the scholarship coming out of high school. You're a starter this year. You're a big part of it. You're somebody we want to return. These are the reasons, one way or another. If it was just, okay, this guy is all he is and he didn't show up, then it's time to move on. I think this is a guy in Bryson Tiller who we've been talking about is where Bill Self has excelled in the past of keeping the guy around.
Agreed.
Which is why I thought they should make it a priority for him. And I think they probably did. They just didn't come to an agreement.
No, I agree. I mean, I agree with all that. Again, I think he's going to be a good player. I just find this is where we are at as college basketball to where a guy who we all agree is probably in a great spot in one of the best college basketball programs ever. Yeah. You have a Hall of Fame head coach who said he's coming back for another year. So he's still there. It's not like it's a coaching change and Jacques Vaughn's taking over.
And also, you're not signing a 2-year deal wherever you go.
Nope.
So wherever you go is going to sign a 1-year deal anyway.
That to me is so frustrating. Where you'll find a Mizzou guy on the Kansas sideline agreeing that this is absurd. Again, if you were a backup and you didn't play and all, then you know what? I understand. If Cole Rosario left because of how his role was last year, I'd be like, you know what? I kind of understand that. Bryson, that felt like the entire time was, we're trying to give you the ball.
Yeah.
Do something with it, and you're not stepping up. At some point, that's on you.
The play style thing might be maybe the factor to read into a little bit because KU was not good offensively this year. And you look around, you look in the tournament of all these teams that have 5 guys that can play in and out. I mean, yeah, I thought Bryson Tiller was really poor to end the year, but you've got agents that are in your ear saying, well, what'd you have, 18-12 against Arizona in that win against the Wildcats in Lawrence? Like, you leverage those moments and, of course, kind of downplay the bad side of it.
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't playing well because nobody was playing well. Oh, you had to deal with the uncertainty of Darren Peterson and trying to get him going when he wasn't really 100%. Flory Badunga had some stretches where he really struggled. There will be a spot out there in the country that he thrives at. He's going to be a very, very good player. And now with this current level of college basketball, I'm not sure it matters anymore whether you're a 5-star recruit or you're a 3-star recruit. Like, tradition and who the school is, it really doesn't matter whether you play or not. Some guys it might. You go to KU, you expect to play early on, you don't, you transfer. That's the way it used to be. Now it's more so about how can I get to the NBA, how can I better my career, and there might be better spots and there might be more money where I can be the guy, where as a draft prospect, that's what matters. Whereas 10 years ago, it mattered a lot to go, wow, I fought for playing time. I came into this class early, right? He reclassified and he redshirted his first year, played under Hunter Dickinson, got to practice against him, won a starting job. It was a great story. You're just not going to see it anymore where that guy's going to see it through. He's going to go, wow, I actually did flourish a little bit, better than I thought I would. I don't want to go play next to Flory Badunga. He may like the guy, but I want to be the 5 guy. I want to be the star of the next team I'm on. And if KU gets Tyron Stokes or they go load up in the portal, he's not going to be, and they're not going to have the money to pay him.
So you mentioned the agent aspect, and this is really fascinating because I know a guy, he's an assistant at a very, very small D1 school, okay? Very, very small. And they have guys, I mean, we're talking the NIL, it's like, instead of millions, it's like 60K, right? Like, there's different monetary. There's a guy that they want to keep, right? He can't get a text back from his agent because the agent wants him to go somewhere else. The player wants to stay where he's at. He likes where he's at. But the agent's telling him, no, you should go somewhere else. I can get you a little more money. And so he texted the player directly.
The agent works for him.
The
Yeah.
assistant texts the player, or
Yeah.
the guy who I know texts
Yeah.
the player, and he goes, hey, as a heads up, if you sign and stay here, does your agent get any of the cut? He says no. He goes, if you go somewhere else, does your agent get some of the cut? He goes, 10%.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
And so
Yeah.
I think that's where
Well, that's the difference.
That's where we're at, is where sometimes, and that's not everywhere, I'm not saying this is the norm, but I'm saying this is a legit thing where sometimes the agent doesn't always have the best interest of the player. They want to get paid.
Yeah, they're out for a profit as well.
They're out for a profit.
Yeah.
And so sometimes if you're staying, well, maybe that agent's not making money because that guy's already here. He's just going directly with the team. But if the agent gets you a job or a spot somewhere else, well, now he's getting 10%.
Yeah.
So what's the agent going to do?
Yeah, and if the player wants to stay, then that's up to the player to go ahead and do that. I mean, we saw.
I'm going to say they're not
Yeah.
always getting fair information.
No.
I think at times there's
I agree.
there's so many voices in their head.
But I think also it comes down to the individual player. Like, we had such a long discussion so often, so many times around Darren Peterson. And okay, are there people in his ear? Or is he being told not to play? Oh, what's this with an athletic official for Kansas having a conversation with him off to the side? Like, this is really weird. And what's going on with his handlers and his family? And I think you have 2 separate players that we've seen in this tournament. One on Saturday night in a game in which a team was dominating, and Yaxel Lindeborg comes back in the game, plays 15 total minutes, and comes back in the game. And I'll get to the point of, what we saw from him. But you also have a Michael Brown or Michael Brown, I'm not sure. It's Achan Brown for Louisville that hurt his back, came back, played a little bit, hurt his back again, and a lot of the reporting around it was his dad and agent said, you're not playing another minute for Louisville. And the whole time it was like, oh, he's close to returning. Heading into the tournament, Pat Kelsey, no, we think Brown's going to be available. He's progressing. He's getting closer and closer. But yet there were plenty of people around the program that said, I'm telling you, he's already been told he's shutting it down. He is not playing another second for Louisville, even if he's healthy. They aren't risking it for him. Yaxel Lindeborg gets up, walks over to the scorer's table, and what did we see him tell his family? I have to. I have to.
Yeah.
Because they told him, you're not going back in the game. You're not going. He goes off to the side. They have people sort of in his ear. You're not going back in the game. And he gets up and goes back in the game, and family's like, what are you doing? And he looks over and he says, I have to.
Yeah.
That's one guy saying, I don't care. I'm playing the freaking game. It's also a player that's played 5 years in Lindeborg and a player that's a true freshman that's expected to be a lottery pick. And, well, we're not going to win a national title. Right? We're a 6 seed. Do I need to really go out there and play and put up 35 points to play in 2 games and then risk hurting my back again? And now I've got a chronic back problem. The NBA now says, well, you did it 3 times.
Yeah.
Instead of, well, it was the same injury. It didn't heal. You rushed it to get back. You hurt it again. But now we're good. You're totally healed. You come back again. You hurt it again. Well, now you've got a back problem. Now you've got an issue, and this thing might be chronic. So do not go back in the game. A little different than, you rolled your ankle. It was a pretty rough sprain of the ankle, but you can go back in and play because I want to go back in there and
the
play.
knee, though,
But
the knee thing, I think, made it a different story because it's
sure.
kind of like
for sure. But it's ultimately up to the player.
Yes.
And that particular player was like, yeah, okay, I'm listening to what the agent and family is saying, and that I'm not going to play again. And boy, it's rough, and I wish I would have been able to go out there and play, but I couldn't. Quote, injury as a
Sure.
part of it. But ultimately, it comes down to the player to do those things. But it's a decision by the player with also the advice from the agent. And I do wonder, like, I think in today's recruiting, and this is where it's like you can find yourself talking out of both sides of your mouth, in that you'll never turn down the number 1 player in America, right? On the flip side, it's like, well, Bill Self has really excelled by having guys stay and developing guys. That would be a Bryson Tiller going into his 3rd year with KU. If Cole Rosario returns, okay, you got another guy returning in his 2nd year with KU. You're bringing in TK. If Flory returns, now you got another guy. Now you're talking about veteran players that have been around Bill Self's system that he can develop over the years, as opposed to churning them out with one and one and one, Melvin Council and Trey White and Darren Peterson and on. And then this year, if it's TK's a one and done, if you get Stokes, whoever else you get in the portal. And on one side you go, you can't turn down the number 1 player in America, Stokes. Boy, Bill Self is really good when he's able to develop guys. But then you're totally fine with saying, well, I'm not giving the money to Tiller if I can get Stokes. Okay, so now you're doing the same thing that you've been doing. And then if it doesn't work out, go, yeah, but this new age college basketball, it's not what Bill Self thrives in. Then don't give Stokes the money. Then don't pay $5 million for Stokes. Pay for Flory and Tiller and a couple of other players to come in and add the bench depth. Because if you're going to spend your NIL money on Stokes and Flory and Tiller are going to walk, how much money do you have left to fill out the rest of your roster? Or are you going to be a 5 or 6 man team again this year? Because, hey, it's hard to turn down the number 1 player in America. You're not turning him down. You're paying him over $5 million.
Yeah.
Because you hear some things at the Final Four and multiple conversations that you hear and are part of that were separate things, both had the same commentary of he has a standing $5 million offer from a team, and it ain't Kansas. So if Kansas gets Stokes, some of the talk at the Final Four is it's going to be for at least 5. So are you going to pay 5 or 5.5 for Stokes, number 1 player in America? But it's also kind of beware what you wish for. Because if he's a guy that's sort of, there's also some talk about his handlers and family and agents, that he's holding out for the most money, and it's going to be transactional. So is he going to be a guy that puts on the Kansas jersey and goes, I'm going to do whatever it takes to go and play? Or is there some Darren Peterson in there, whereas Flory, Tiller, Rosario putting on the Kansas jersey going, yeah, now I've got some skin in the game and some equity here. What's a better way of going about roster construction, especially when Stokes wants the ball in his hands and you've got a true point guard in TK that has to play with the ball in his hands? How do you figure that thing out? It may not be worth the $5.5 or $6 million for Stokes and go, well, you can't turn down the number 1 player in America. You can turn down paying him $6 million. If he's going to come to you for free, then hey, great. But if he goes somewhere else, Kentucky was going to pay Hunter Dickinson until Kansas paid him, and Kentucky was like, we'd love Hunter, not for that money. So Kentucky doesn't get Hunter. And there's a big freaking deal around there that how could Calipari not land Hunter Dickinson? Like, this is an embarrassment. Cal has lost it. Well, he ends up at Kansas, where Bill Self has been really good with centers, really good with big men. Cal and Kentucky are really good with point guards, which is the amazing part, and not amazing part, but where you start to see people take shots at Mark Pope is a guy that grew up 45 minutes from Kentucky's campus, in TK, number one point guard in America, not going to Kentucky, going to Kansas, where if Cal was at Kentucky, TK is a Kentucky Wildcat. Because Calipari, point guards, grew up a Kentucky fan 40 minutes from the campus, and he's going to Kansas to be a point guard. So what are you doing, Mark Pope? You can't even keep the kids home. That you said after the last loss, we got to find guys that understand what it means to wear the Kentucky jersey. That guy's 45 minutes from Kentucky, grew up a Kentucky fan, and he's playing for Kansas. Why is that the case? Because that guy doesn't want to play for you. Because you aren't developing players. He wants to go play for Bill Self, where he can have the ball in his hands, and I'm guessing Bill Self said, you're going to run the offense for us. We haven't had this in a couple of years. You're the true point guard. Now you bring in Stokes, and then what do you do? So I think there's an element of beware what you wish for if you get Stokes, or is it worth it to take the $5 million or what could be more? Because I think if all he wanted was $5 million, he'd probably take the standing offer for $5 million. You pay more, or is it better to disperse that with other players that might be 3 or 4 players that could equal what a Stokes equals? And that's just, again, going back to roster construction. What's the best interest of Kansas? What's the best interest of Missouri or K-State? K-State went and got Haggerty. We're going to go get the best scorer out there. That guy had no interest in playing defense. That guy had no interest in what it felt like playing for Kansas State other than playing for the check. So who do you get? Somebody that wants to play for Kansas or somebody that wants to play for the check? Clearly, Tiller would like to play for a check as well. There's an element there, but I think if Tiller returns, he's got skin in the game of now 3 years playing in front of the Kansas crowd. You start to earn equity with the fans and Kansas fans everywhere. Of, okay, this guy's been here 3 years. You know, you can start to root and see the development of somebody that we don't see in the past. And that's where I understand the frustration from KU fans with Flory doing this again, of you went in the portal again to go and get the most money. But we also don't have the seeing a guy stay around for years and years and years and develop. That would be a guy that would stay around for a number of years and develop, while also doing the whole portal NBA testing the waters thing. I don't know. I am a little surprised Haggerty is just entering the portal without the quote testing the NBA waters. Like, I don't know, maybe he looks at it and says, I'm going to be a scorer wherever I can make more money for 1 year. I ain't paying that guy. I mean, he's going to get money somewhere, but I wouldn't want the coach of a team that I root for to pay that guy. I saw him last year. K-State fans saw him. You want Casey Alexander to pay P.J. Haggerty? No. Nope. Build it a different way. And we're seeing that. Roster construction matters, not just saying, let me take the best player in America. Michigan has 3 players on their team this year available to play tonight that played in the last game last year against Alabama in the Sweet 16. They've only got 3 players from that team that saw any minutes in that game that are on the roster healthy for tonight's game. They replenished with the number 1 transfer, number 26 transfer, number 46 transfer, and the number 21 overall player. Those are the 4 other starters that have entered, along with Burnett is the only starter on the team that's returned, and then some role players that have returned. He took an entire brand new team, Dusty May did, but didn't just go, I'm going to get the 1, 3, 5 recruits in America, the number 1 and 2 transfer, and we're going to put it together. No, it was, I need a combo guard that can score and also handle the rock because we lost Trey Donaldson to Miami. Okay, let's bring in Trey McKinney. We need a big man that can play because we lost Wolf to the NBA. Let's go get Yaxel Lindenberg. We need another center that can actually play as a center. Let's go get Mara. Now, because McKinney's a freshman, we need somebody that can be a point guard in case McKinney doesn't turn out to be a stud combo guard. Let's go get Cadeau in the transfer portal. Building the roster a certain way to fit. Does Stokes and TK, do they fit together? I don't know if they do. Did Melvin and Darren fit together? Kind of feel like you're running into the same thing. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next. All right, man, if you're out there and you happen to be suffering from erectile dysfunction, maybe it happened once, twice, you laughed it off, no big deal. If it continues to happen, well, yes, then there is something bigger going on with that. You need to get it checked out and figured out, and Heartland Men's Health is here to help you because they have been successfully treating men in the Kansas City area. There are many different underlying conditions that can cause that condition, which then in turn can cause depression and arguments and breakups and contribute to divorce. Maybe you've tried the pills or the herbals and they have failed. Well, Heartland Men's Health has treatments when that happens, if that pill or herbal fails. In fact, they have treatments with success rates well over 90%. Here's what you do. Schedule a consult with Heartland Men's Health today. Your initial visit, $99. That includes a medical consult with a licensed medical provider, a T and PSA test, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if the test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. They have an expert staff with 3 locations to serve you: Overland Park, Independence between Blue Springs and Lee Summit, and North Kansas City. Call them today at 844-447-6600. Tell them you heard about it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, 844-447-6600, or visit heartlandmenshealth.com. All right, wrapping up this hour, we'll continue talking some college basketball as the show goes along. Can the local teams match what Michigan did? Again, as I said, Michigan went from a team that played in the Sweet 16 last year, and they had 4 starters. They had Wolf and Golden, Donaldson, Jones, and Burnett that started that game in a loss. Wolf went to the NBA, Golden graduated, Jones graduated, and Donaldson went to Miami. Burnett returned. And he's a nice player. But if you look at Michigan, you don't look at Michigan and go, well, the reason they're in this spot is because of Nimari Burnett. No, it's Lindenberg and McKinney and Mo Johnston and Mara and the guys that transferred in and freshmen that are a part of it. I will continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy, Jack Johnson hanging out with us. Bryson Tiller now included in the transfer portal, updated at 24/7 consensus. He's the number 20 transfer in America, number 1 being Flory Badunga as the highest rated transfer. I would like for Mizzou or K-State or KU, depending on what happens with Flory, but from a personal standpoint, Mizzou to go and grab Samto Surreal from Georgia, the 6'11", 260-pound center, because Trent Burns is a fine player who they returned and brought back. But Trent Burns is a paperclip, and Trent Pierce is a paperclip, and Sean Phillips was a tougher player inside. They don't have that right now, whereas Samto Surreal is an absolute dog who had like 7 or 8 offensive boards against Missouri when they played for Georgia. He's the number 11 overall transfer in America. And you know what? If Flory ends up going somewhere else, then maybe Samto Surreal is somebody that KU goes and gets and says, we'll play more traditional 5. And if Bryson Tiller can return, then you play a more traditional, here's your 1 with TK. Maybe Cole Rosario fills into the role of a 2 or a 3, Tiller a 4, and then Samto Surreal a 5. But we'll see. We'll see how much he wants as the second best center available after Flory. And we're seeing how crucial it is to have some big men that can play at a higher level, because Mo Krivas, Terrace Reed for UConn, Mara for Michigan, like we're seeing some really dominant players, and Illinois didn't necessarily have that bigger player that could match what Terrace Reed could do, where Michigan does.
It works in college. You get to the NBA, a lot of times you have to be a little quicker.
Yeah.
But in college, you can be effective in that regard. And by the way, for as big as Mara is, dude can move. As big as Mo Krivas is, dude can move. Reed, same thing.
Yeah.
I actually had no issue with Sean Phillips. I mean, yes, here and there I had issues with him as the player, but I also understand Missouri needed a physical 5, and he played that role at times, maybe too physical.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of guy that they need to go after. And so you're right with Georgia. That
Samto
that
Surreal.
guy. Yeah.
And you know what?
It'd be surreal if they got him.
It would be great. The final game for Sean Phillips was maybe his best game. It
was awesome.
So if he was going to, play a final game for Mizzou, and
Him and Ant had their best 2 games as a Tiger.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe tomorrow, the first minute when the portal opens, Ant will announce he's going to Miami. I don't know. That seems like the most obvious transfer there. So we'll see with that. 913-912-4810. The Royals have made a move. Sterling, what is the roster move for the Kansas City Royals?
Michael Massey reinstated, and Nick Lofton heading back to Omaha.
Interesting. You think he'll take a direct path, or maybe go like in a winding way?
I guess I said back to Omaha. It should be up to Omaha.
But I just want to know which path he'll take. Will he take like a banana route to Omaha, or will he see the ball and then go directly at it on his way to Omaha? We'll see.
He'll hit 200 on his way.
There's a part of me, I'm more worried about the defensive play in left field. Twice a single was played into a RBI triple by 2 different players, Nick Lofton, a second baseman, and Isaac Collins, who is a left fielder. But I don't know. There's a part of me that's a little surprised that it's Michael Massey for Nick Lofton as opposed to Michael Massey and Tolbert. But then are you just adding more redundancy if it's Lofton and Massey that sort of do the same thing and play second base and left field, where Tolbert can also play second base, can play center field, but there is a very specific skill, like Liam Neeson, that he offers. Do the numbers match up what the eye test says? Because I know there are people that look at Tolbert, and defensively I don't really want him on the field, especially when you've got Tolbert and Lane Thomas coming together to try to figure out, a fly ball. Whereas if that was India and Isbell or Massey and Isbell, I think that ball is caught. But Tolbert is 22 of 25 in stolen bases in his career. Does it feel like that? It's such a surprising number because I don't put Tolbert in the category of like, okay, put that guy out there, he's going to go steal a base and he's going to get it done and he's not going to be caught.
Does that count pickoffs?
It does. It does. So he's one of two this year. He's got a stolen base, and then he got a caught stealing.
Okay, because
yesterday
I
with
know it
getting
counts
picked off.
caught steals. I didn't know if it counts, when you get picked off of, because it feels like they're
Yeah.
mostly pickoffs.
Yeah, well, then then get a better read and get a better jump. It doesn't seem like he's as efficient as that when he gets in the game and is able to do it, but the numbers suggest that he is. So if he is that good and the Royals believe in him, he at least offers something that Lofton or Massey doesn't. So from that standpoint, I do understand the move. I just wish it felt like Tolbert was better, I guess. But the numbers say that he is. I mean, he's attempted 25 stolen bases, and he's been safe 22 of them.
Jack had a good point, and I want to hear that because we were talking in the break.
Yeah, I just, with Tolbert, your value to this team is stealing bases. Honestly, last year, though you have the numbers of 20-plus stolen bases, I thought he didn't run enough. There were multiple times he looked super unsure of himself, couldn't get a good read on the pitcher. And when you go into a spot like yesterday, it's the 8th inning, right? You're down by 1 run. There's 2 outs. You need to get into scoring position. You cannot have 2 or 3 failed attempts because the guy at the plate's going to go, I'll give you 2 pitches here.
Yep.
I can't fall behind 0-2. I'm going to count on the fact that someone like Angel Serpa might be a little bit wild, might miss one, but I'm not going to let many pitches right down the middle go by. And yesterday, look, I'm not going to be all over the guy for that mistake. It happens. We've seen some great base stealers fall for that type of pickoff move before. I didn't think it was that exceptional of a pickoff move by Serpa. But to me, when you look at this roster move as a whole, maybe it's more so about, okay, what does Nick Lofton do well? Okay, the only thing I can come up with is he plays a lot of positions. But is it valuable to play a lot of positions when you don't really excel at those positions? Like, if you're going to be a super utility guy, you have to be great somewhere. And I'm not sure Lofton is anymore. Why? Because the majority of his reps will be in the outfield. Maybe at second base, but now you have Michael Massey back, who is a true second baseman. He's not going to play anymore at third. He's not going to play at short. He's not going to play at first. He's going to play in left, or he's going to play in right. And as we saw in yesterday's game, a really bad route to the ball cost Chris Bubich a run. Shortly after that, there's the 2-run home run, and now you're already climbing uphill before you even have your first at bat. So it's more of a lateral move. I do believe that Michael Massey's the best bench bat they can have. He's got the most upside. He's the best defensively. And whereas for Lofton, it's kind of why in spring training I wasn't that high on him making the roster, because this was bound to happen at some point. I don't believe there's some untapped potential there. I don't believe he's great defensively. He's not that fantastic of a base runner. But I will say this for Tyler Tolbert, with you staying on the roster for this move, you have to be a 90+% success rate guy when stealing bases. You cannot have what happened yesterday happen this week. You have to now have a string of stolen bases where it's 5 in a row. You are getting extra runs for the Royals, because otherwise I don't know what your purpose is on the roster if you're not adding some extra runs here and there in close games like we saw on Sunday afternoon.
I think your best point was, again, the jump. It feels like he's never comfortable. The percentage is great, but I think that's why. It's because half the time he's just bouncing around. I didn't get a good jump. I got to go back. At some point, when you're that high of a percentage, you got to go. That's your role. You got to go.
Well, and also, wouldn't they have a decent idea of what Zerpa's move looks like?
They should.
They're pretty familiar with Angel Zerpa, right? And Blair asked the question after the game was over yesterday and said, you've seen Zerpa before, and so is that an element of Tolbert sort of knowing what he is? Was it a wrong read? And Q just said, well, he's sort of guessing there. Why is he guessing? And I don't know that if you're gonna guess, wouldn't it be the first or second pitch?
Yeah.
Because he also guessed and then stopped.
Yeah.
And then guessed again. Well, if he's just guessing, then you need somebody else that you're off the bench base stealer that isn't just going to go, all right, flip a coin. Heads. Okay, I'm going to run on first movement. Okay. Tails, I'm going to fake it, but I'm going to stay here just to see what the first movement is. You should be reading what the pitcher does and have a scout on every single bullpen arm. If your main job is to come off the bench and steal bases, I'm watching video, I'm studying, I'm seeing what that move is, because when I get in the game, that's my value to keep collecting a major league check, is to be able to do this, not to quote-unquote guess against a guy that spent his entire career with the team that you are now going up against in Zerpa. You should have an idea of what his move is.
And I'm sure there's a guy in the minors who's probably better at stealing bases than Tolbert, but they probably are still trying to figure out if he can be a major leaguer and have a positional value as a starter somewhere. So it is a very specialized skill set, especially at this point when you are in the majors as almost strictly a base stealer. With Michael Massey, I think it makes a lot of sense, too. Again, whether it was Tolbert or Lofton, Massey, you're right, best bench bat, too. It's also a left-handed bat. Because right now, he's basically your only left-handed bat. If even, let's say, a right-handed starter's on the mound, you're probably still having Indy at second base and Massey as a guy off the bench. So if they go to a lefty later in the game, you bring in a right. Just for matchup purposes, it makes sense to have Massey.
You could also go with Massey as a starter then in that situation where, if there's a righty on the mound. I'm not saying Massey is going to be a strong side platoon for Jonathan India, because I think India's going to be your everyday player.
Yeah.
And Massey will move around. But it might be to where you want to overload with lefties if there's a righty that is on a particular night struggles against left-handed batters. They get ready for the Guardians, who are the typical every year, what we call the Royals, the devil magic.
Cleveland's had it now for 5 years.
Their negative run differential and leading the American League Central. Of course, it's just simply what they do. They don't do anything particularly well. Their starting staff isn't all that great. The bullpen isn't necessarily all that great. They don't run the bases all that great. They don't necessarily hit the ball all that great, but in their negative run differential, and here they are leading the Central. It's just simply what they do.
Even Chase DeLutter's swing makes no sense.
Yeah.
His swing makes no sense.
They took 2 of 3 from the Dodgers, but almost were no hit yesterday.
Yeah, and then the White Sox sweep the Blue Jays somehow, so we've got some oddities going on in the American League, and those are the next couple of games or series that the Royals will go up against. I want to look back, though, over these previous 3 games before, the Royals get ready for this quick little 3-game road trip against Cleveland before returning home against the White Sox. The 3 games against the Brewers, I kind of feel like, is that the model of what the Royals want to look like? Is how the Brewers play? It's like what the Royals are going for. They just got out-brewered by a better version of by the version that the Royals want to strive to be, that the Brewers already are as one of the best National League teams, because I think the Royals in their approach this year is trying to be Brewers-esque, but they just got out-brewered in that game in a series where they could have won 2 of 3. Instead, they lose 2 of 3, and the run differential is even 15-15.
Yeah, I would say that for so many years, the model for small market teams wasn't Milwaukee, it was Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay was the team they said, man, they never spend any money. Nobody goes to their games. But then you look up and they're a 90-win team. And you say, well, that's possible for all of us. There is nothing, I like to say this a lot, there's nothing preventing the Royals from being the Rays or from being the Milwaukee Brewers. It's all about player development at that point. It's all about finding the right fits. And Milwaukee does that better than any small market team. I mean, they were the number 1 seed in the National League last year, when you still have to deal with the payrolls of the Dodgers and the Mets and the Phillies. I mean, they are in a different league when it comes to payroll on the National League side. There's also, it's much easier said than done to say, we'll just do what the Brewers are doing. They clearly know how to really develop pitchers. The Royals do as well, but the Brewers almost make a game out of it where they find somebody who was undeniably awful last year. And they had their thing called the pitching lab, where, like, Brandon Sproat was not good for the Mets last year. And he was not good in his first start against Chicago and wasn't all that great against the Royals. I would bet he'll be good by the end of the year. He's throwing 99-mile-an-hour sinkers with movement. Like, they just zero in on those guys. I mean, Angel Serpa, there were so many people in Kansas City that said, just get him out of here. There's no way this can be a big league pitcher in the bullpen. I always thought he was much better than people gave him credit for. But the Brewers traded a guy who was top 5 in Rookie of the Year voting, and Nick Mears, who's been the Royals' best reliever. And Serpa is somebody they love, that they like in those high leverage spots, as the Royals did last year. But to me, that is where the Royals need to get to, where you do want to improve your team via free agency, via some trades, but they're a 95 to 100 win type potential team, where the Royals, they're still where the Rays are, in my opinion, where you need to have that stretch where you go 20-5 over 25 games, where you are so hard to beat at home. You're a team that you look at the lineup and go, I don't know how they do it, but they just continue to win series and sweep a lot of teams. That's where they need to get to. Maybe bringing in a guy like Connor Dawson, who has that Brewers influence, can help them offensively. But looking at that series, I think you said it perfectly, of the Brewers just out-brewered them. I didn't think they got completely dominated in that series.
No.
They split the doubleheader. It's usually what happens. They had a chance on Sunday. They fought back a little bit. But the Brewers are just a better team, and we also need to acknowledge they were really good last year as well. People want to write them off like we do with the Guardians. They'll have the Pacoda projections of like 81 wins, and they're going to win 98. We all know it's coming at some point at the end of the year.
I would say you can't make that many defensive mistakes. That's the issue. And again, it comes back to runners in scoring position. This team has struggled yet again. I think the hard part is, and people don't want to hear it, and I'm getting sick and tired of hearing it as well. You look at some of the hard-hit numbers from a couple of the guys, Bobby specifically, and it's just a drastic difference. He is OPS in at 576, and that's just not.
What's his expected OPS?
His expected OPS
7-something
is 903.
Like I said, 700. So
Right? Yeah, 903. Vinny is the one that's nerve-wracking because Vinny is basically in line with what he's done, which has been.
but I feel like he's in line with how he started
535.
most
He's
seasons.
always
But,
been
but
a
at some
starter,
point, I think a lot of fans have felt this way, and I love Vinny. This is not like, I'm so angry, but you got to figure it out then at some point. If you're always, it's like Estevez, if you know it takes you this long to get going, do something different or try to ramp up earlier. I know it's hard. It's not like you're going to say, play Major League Baseball games. But what did Michael Garcia do? He would play in the Venezuelan League, and it worked. I don't know.
Well,
but
these guys played in the WBC, and they're starting off slow.
Sure, but it just to me this is I guess technically Kyle Isbell is the highest OPS, but
killing it.
And Michael Garcia is doing what a little better, but still continuing what he was.
Yeah.
But Salvi yet again is up there in OPS. He's the second highest or third highest slug. Salvi has the third highest slug on this team behind Kyle Isbell, Garcia, and then Salvi. You can't keep counting on Salvi at age 36, 35, nearly 36 to be third in slug.
Yeah, I would expect that the Royals would have expected the Royals this many games into the season if their leadoff hitter through 9 games had an on-base percentage of .425, and you're like, okay, well, there you go. There's your leadoff hitter right there in Garcia, to have the limited success that they have had consistently outside of the awesome inning with 2 outs when it was single, walk, single, error, single, wild pitch, whatever. In that particular that inning, they haven't really had that, and that was very Brewers-esque of them to do, to wait for 2 outs to then score runs, because the Brewers are like, 2 outs? All right, now let's go. Let's go play. The Royals are like, hold on, in the field, we've got 2 outs on the opposing team? Great, let's relax a little bit. Let's
take
just
a nap.
Let's just cool it with throwing all these strikes and unhittable pitches. Let's do that. I want to give you a couple of slash lines, and I know numbers on the radio is not great, so but there's a point here. I want you guys to guess what the 2 slash lines are. And sometimes it makes you look smart, sometimes not. But just for a point here, I'll go slow on them. So this is 219 plate appearances to 116 plate appearances, okay? 263 batting average to 218. 338 on base percentage to 319. 411 slug to 307 slug, 749 OPS to 626. And I'll just give you the slash lines as a whole. That's a 218, 319, 307, 626 versus a 263, 338, 411, and 749. Do you know what those 2 differences are?
I assume it's going to be like Vinny in April versus Vinny in May or post. That'd be my best guess.
I was going to say Vinny as well, but we can't guess whether it's 2 players or just one.
You can guess whatever you want.
Gosh. I do have to think. I'll go with Sterling's answer. That seems like a Vinny split.
Okay, so the lower numbers of 116 plate appearances are through 9 games, the 2, 3, 4 hitters in the Royals lineup. And the 219 plate appearances are everybody else in the lineup. That's not just 1 or 2 players. That's every other person that has taken a plate appearance outside of Bobby, Vinny, and Salvi are OPSing at 749. Bobby, Vinny, and Salvi are OPSing at 626.
I know Salvi hasn't been phenomenal. You look at the average at 206.
At least he's got 4 of the 5 extra base hits.
But he has 4 of the 5 extra base hits. He's
Yeah.
at least driving the ball. He is slugging 441. Again, smaller sample size.
Yeah.
And by the way, he has the best walk to strikeout rate of Bobby and Vinny as well.
That's right. Yeah, 3 walks and 4 Ks.
I mean, again,
Yeah.
to me, this has been a Bobby Vinny
starting thing.
starting issue.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're 4 and 5, and it's like, man, if you had Bobby and Vinny come out of the gates swinging the bat the way you would expect them to be swinging it at certain points in the season, given what everybody else in the lineup has done, you wouldn't expect a 4 and 5 start. It would maybe be, I don't know, 7 and 2, 6 and 3, maybe at that point minimum. But they've had certain at bats where Vinny got the 2 runs yesterday, worked off the Zerpa, got that thing into left center, so that was good. Salvi's had some power; he hit the home run. Bobby had a huge at bat with bases loaded and struck out on a ball because Collins used the last challenge on an obvious strike. That was annoying. As soon as he challenged him, like, that's an emotional challenge, dude. Come on, man. And challenged, which left them with no more challenges that Bobby clearly would have challenged because he's sitting up there and looking at the umpire like, really? That's not a strike. And I think he would have challenged, and that would have been ball 4, right? Because it was a 3-2 pitch. It would have been ball 4, and it changes the trajectory of that particular game. But also, he's had some hittable pitches that he hasn't done damage on yet this early in the season that I do expect that to happen. It's just unfortunate that the rest of the lineup is coming through in a time where 2-3-4 is really struggling to get big hits with guys that are getting on base in front of them.
You know, the good thing, and maybe call me an optimist on this, if there were any guys to struggle through the first 9 games of the season, I'd rather it be those guys.
Yep.
Because what's going to happen? We know Bobby Wood Jr. is still going to be a top 5 player in all of baseball this year. And for anybody out there concerned about, the swing decisions, it really, when it all boils down, it's a 9-game sample size. You can take whatever 9 to 10-game sample size at any point in the season. We just don't remember it as much in June or July because these are the first 9 games we have to go off of. Whereas we're looking at Kyle Isbell. Wow, he looks tremendous. It might just be a really good 9-game stretch, and this might just be a really bad stretch for Bobby Wood Jr. But I think you can take some solace in the fact of, okay, a lot of this season was going to be, well, can Isaac Collins be good? Can Jack Caglione be good? Can Carter Jensen be good? We know that Witt, Garcia, Pasquantino, they're going to be top contributors in this lineup. And Vinny last year was hitting 150 in April, and he had a 30-plus home run season and drove in over 100. He's going to get there eventually, as will Bobby. It's good to see Garcia continue his hot stretch from the WBC. I'm a little bit more enthused that we went from that first series in Atlanta going, my God, Isaac Collins looks terrible. I mean, he's looking at pitches down the middle. Now you look up, he's got an on-base of 380 and hitting 263, and he's hitting the ball really hard. Yeah. You're looking at someone like Jack Caglione. To me, it was about these first 10 games. Is he going to be hitting 114 like Lane Thomas, or is he going to be hitting 286 with a 380-plus on-base percentage? You need for some of those guys a good start to the year, where other guys, one we'll see tonight, Jose Ramirez. You go over the course of his entire career, he's been putrid. Every year in April, people go, what's going on with Jose Ramirez? Then he's going to be a 7 to 8 WAR player and be their top offensive threat. I'm kind of seeing it the same way with Bobby, where there's going to be some series where he's 8 of 12 and just, his average spikes from what it is right now at 250 something to 330. Yep. Really, this early on in the year, it takes one game for you to forget about somebody's cold start. Isaac Collins is a perfect example of he was 0 for his first 11, and then he hits the home run against Minnesota on the home opener. Now you look at Isaac Collins as one of your better threats in the lineup. Really, this early on in the season, it's because we have nothing else to go off of. We want to overreact. We want to find an issue where it might just be a 10-game sample size when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I would rather, as you said, and again, maybe this is looking at the glass half full, if I had those 2 splits to choose, I would rather choose the lower split being Vinny or Bobby, Vinny, and Salvi, rather than, well, here we go again. Bobby, Vinny, and Salvi are OPSing at 750 through the first 9 games, and they've got 25 of the 35 RBIs and, 16 extra base hits, and the rest of the team is OPSing at 620. And here we go again. I'd rather choose the meat of your lineup is struggling, not great for, the wins and losses, but if we're looking at the process over results through the course of the season, I'd rather the better start be to the guys that were needing to have improved seasons for the offense to be more balanced. I expect Vinny and Bobby and Salvi to be Vinny, Bobby, and Salvi. We'll take a timeout, come back, more zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Joel Penfield coming up at noon, One Royal Way podcast, and talk some Royals baseball with him. We talked a lot of college basketball throughout the first hour as Michigan and UConn get set for the national championship tonight right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Michigan 6.5-point favorites over the Huskies, and UConn trying to win 3 of 4 national championships, which would be the best dynastic run since ... like UCLA? Like winning 3 of 4, but like even UCLA was not the expanded tournament where you got to win 6 games to do it. The only one that I would guess would come close is the 96, 97, 98 Kentucky team that almost went 3 in a row, except for losing to Arizona. And, Simon says championship, and the Arizona Wildcats beating 4 number 1 seeds, and Derek Anderson having the torn ACL for Kentucky and not being able to play in that championship game, and they lose in 97 to Arizona. But dominate in 96, win in 98, winning 2 of 3, not the same as winning 3 of 4, where UConn has that chance tonight if they pull off the win / the upset. But, I mean, it's a national championship game. It can't be too much of an upset.
Yeah, I do love the fact we're the underdog. Well, are you?
You're 18-1 in the tournament in the last 4 tournaments, so tough to be the underdog. But Danny Hurley is on the cusp of having the best dynastic run, and maybe he's already done that in 4 tournaments by playing in 3 national championship games. And UConn, by the way, being 6-0 in national championship games. 6-0, and Michigan's 1-6 in national championship games.
Best in the last 50. I mean, obviously Wood and UCLA, I think. But is this? I would say
tournament
yes.
expanded, maybe the best.
Yes,
not even maybe the best dynastic
best.
run since the tournament expanded in '85.
Yeah, I would say by a fairly wide margin. I'm trying to think of
Duke with Leitner that made the Final Fours, and they were there, and they won a couple. But
they lost they got killed by UNLV and then beat the Fab Five. And then they was that Leitner's last year when they beat that was Leitner's last year, and then Carolina won it the next year against Fab Five. So yeah,
because that was the freshman Fab Five, and then the sophomore Fab Five was North Carolina.
Florida did go back to back in the early 2000s, but even after then, Donovan left, and then they kind of fell off.
Well, Donovan left like 10 years later. They weren't.
What was that third year? What did Florida do?
They lost everybody. I don't remember them having.
I don't remember them doing anything either. This I would say because it's the hardest thing to win in any sport, the NCAA tournament, to win this many games in a row. The fact Dan Hurley's 18-1, this to me would be probably more impressive. Maybe I'm overstepping here. More impressive than what UCLA did in that decade-long stretch. I mean, they were just so much better than everybody else. There's been a couple of years UConn has gone in the tournament as not the best team. In fact, 2 of those titles, if they do win tonight, would be where they were not even close to being the best team in the tournament. They were the 4 seed in Dan Hurley's first championship. Then they were the top dog and beat everybody by double digits in the next year. They're the 2 seed, and they're arguably the 5th or 6th best team that entered the tournament this year.
Yeah, they won back-to-back. Florida won back-to-back in 06 and 07, and then lost in the Elite Eight to UMass.
And what year are you looking at?
That was 2000. No, they wouldn't have lost in the Elite Eight to UMass.
I'm looking at this.
No, they didn't even make the tournament that year.
They missed the tournament back to. Well, but I'm looking at it. That's wild.
They didn't make the tournament in 08.
They went 24-12
So I'm looking
and missed.
at Billy Donovan's.
And they went 25-11 the year following and missed.
Yeah, they missed the next 2 tournaments.
Did they have?
I was thinking
Did they go to the NIT?
maybe they did in 08 and 09.
But did they? Am I missing something here? They went 24-12 and 25-11 and missed the tournament.
My only guess would be some sort of NIT. Not sanctioned. I think they might have been like 20 and 11.
They went to the NIT those years.
So then they added those wins.
Yeah, so they went to the NIT and won those games there. Yeah, so.
Oh, I get you're saying.
So
sorry, thank you.
20.
Yes.
So they missed the tournament. They went 3-1 in the NIT in 08, and they went 2-1
Okay, that makes way more sense. Sorry, I was being a dumbass for a second. I'm like,
Oh, you're fine.
I'm like, how do you go 24 and 12?
If it didn't have it right
Not
there,
as big
it
of a
said
dumbass
NIT.
as not as big of a dumbass as me looking at Billy Donovan's record and then jumping from 2007 to 2011.
I was like, UMass?
Because I'm like, no, UMass could not have made the Final Four because that was 4 number 1 seeds in 08.
Yeah.
So UMass definitely didn't make the Final Four. And
UMass
I'm-
would like to believe that happened.
Yeah, jumping up to 2011, and I'm like, they made the Elite Eight then. Yeah, but that's not 2008. You know, there was a run of 3 years where they missed the tournament, then lost in the first round, and then he went Elite Eight, Elite Eight, Elite Eight, Final Four, missed the tournament, moved on to play or to be a coach in the NBA. But you're talking about losing in the first round, losing in the second round, championship, missing the tournament. That's a great 2-year run, right? Back-to-back years, amazing. You go 12-0 in the NCAA tournament, but then you miss the next 2. Like UConn, championship, loses, and then playing in the championship the very next year.
And their only loss is to the eventual champions in Florida.
How Chiefs-like is this?
And they damn near beat Florida in the round of
Yeah, they
32
were
last
up.
year.
This is very Chiefs-like.
Yeah.
When you compare it to other dynastic runs.
Yeah. I mean, then it comes down to how difficult would you say, like, what was more difficult? The Chiefs going to 3 consecutive Super Bowls, going for the three-peat, or going to the NCAA tournament 3 out of 4 years?
That's
the
a
national
great
championship.
call. I mean, because
It's up for debate.
and NFL, obviously, I think it's harder with the amount of injuries sustained. But I would say college basketball, the amount of games and upsets you see in March. I mean, how many times do you see just the best team get knocked out first, maybe not first round, but second or third round?
Yeah.
I mean, all the time.
I mean, Florida this year, I mean, if Florida and Iowa played 10 times, I would say Florida wins 9 of those. But that, in like the NFL, you play the Chiefs-Ravens game,
Yeah.
the AFC championship game on the road. You play that game 10 times, like
Ravens might win 7 or 8 of those.
I was going to say 7. So,
Damn, they were so good that year. They were so good that year.
Mm-hmm.
But it took 1. And if you play
Great
Duke,
question.
I mean, if you play Duke and UConn in the Elite Eight, I mean, UConn's in the spot because of a turnover,
of a meltdown.
and then Braylon Mullins hitting that crazy 3. I mean, they're losing in the Elite Eight and going, what a great run by Danny Hurley. You went to the championship, damn near won in the round of 32 against the 1 seed Florida, and then you gave Duke all they could handle, and you lost in the Elite Eight. That's still a 3-1 stretch. I mean, this is unbelievable that this guy is, 16-2 in the last 4 NCAA tournaments, and UConn's going to be there again next year. But Mullins hits the shot, and the history is now different forever,
13-second game.
right? But they didn't play in the Super Bowl.
No,
I think Mullins. I think Mullins and UConn playing in the championship game tonight makes the Mullins shot even more
better, yeah.
incredible. If they win tonight, then it's an all-time historic one.
Because then Jet Chip Wasp would have been, would it have been the field goal that Butker made after the Asai roughing the passer?
Or the late hit out of
I meant
bounds.
late hit. Yeah, late hit.
Yeah. Could be, but to the level of like you expected Butker to make that because that's just simply what he does. It would have been the 13 seconds if the Chiefs would have gone to the Super Bowl after the
I think you're right.
because then that would have capped off 3 straight Super Bowl runs. You win 1, you lose 1, and then you go back yet again to face off against the Rams, and you still are
an
the
absurd, by
top
the way.
dog in the
It
AFC.
shouldn't have happened. The Chiefs shouldn't have won that game more than
And they shouldn't have lost to Cincinnati.
and they should
They
have.
shouldn't have won the divisional round, and they shouldn't have lost in the AFC Championship game, but they did.
Yeah.
UConn shouldn't have been able to come back from that deficit that they did.
Yes.
And they shouldn't have been able to, in the time that they did, get a steal and a 40-foot 3, with 0.4 of a second left to go in. But here they are, and then they take care of Illinois, and now they get a chance to win again tonight. Like the Leitner shot matters because you win it eventually. It's like, wow, what an amazing historic shot because you would have lost in that game and not even make a Final Four. And instead, hey, you're cutting down the nets. UConn, because they're playing in the just even playing in the championship game, meaning 3 out of 4 years you've played for a national championship at UConn, the Mullins shot becomes even more historic. I think if they lose on Saturday, it's like, what a great shot to get you to the Final Four. That's big. But it got you to the Final Four, and then you ultimately lost to Illinois or whatever it might be. But you're now playing for a national championship for the 3rd time in 4 years, and UConn's never lost a national championship game. That's what's crazy is Michigan is 1-6. They could be 1-7, like
Something's
7
gotta
national
give.
championship losses. No, something doesn't have to give because if
I guess,
UConn wins, it'd be 7-0 versus 1-7 in championship games in the history. I think it's going to flip, though. I think Michigan does win tonight. But
Hey, as again, Mizzou guy, I think the Final Four one has to be the hard. I think even making one is harder than the Chiefs run, apparently.
that's what it is. Yeah, making one Final Four is much
apparently,
more difficult than going to 3 Super Bowls.
Apparently, according to the school's history that I gave my money to and my life to, apparently.
Dang.
Well, you also, too, in the NFL, I mean, if you're the top dog, you're the number 1 seed, you get to have a home game, a home game Super Bowl. Where in the NCAA tournament, it's technically all neutral site stuff. This really, I'm not sure it could ever be replicated, not in the current landscape of college basketball, because you change rosters every single year. And a credit to UConn and Dan Hurley. I mean, they have become a villain in this era where it's really easy to become a villain, but you also have to have that sustained success. You can't be a villain for 1 year and say, oh, yeah, everybody hates us. Like, everybody didn't like Dan Hurley and UConn after the first title. They do it again. He was really disliked. It's almost impossible to be an 8 or a 9 seed and people root against you in the round of 32, because that's what I at least saw happening when it was Florida UConn last year. And then this year, it's like you have them against Duke in the Elite Eight, and you still would have people going, I don't know who to pick here because I hate Duke. I also don't want to see Dan Hurley do it again. And also, no matter what happens tonight, as I always like to say, you can hang banners and have T-shirts for Final Four appearances, national championship appearances. You don't really do that for the Elite Eight. Like, if Dan Hurley would have lost that game to Duke, I mean, it's like you got really close, but not close enough. When you get to the Final Four, it's kind of the same way I felt for Arizona. That doesn't erase what they did in the 38 games there. It's like you got to the Final Four. Few teams say they can do that, where if you have a loaded team like Duke did and you lose in the Elite Eight, you go, well, I don't really care what we did in the regular season because we blew that game in the second half, and we're always going to be remembered for that. Kind of, not quite the same, because last year in the Final Four, Duke blew that game to Houston, but at least you can say we were in the Final Four. You can hang a banner for that T-shirt. UConn is able to do that. If they lose by 30 tonight, I think it just shows how dominant Michigan is.
I think round of 32 to 16 and Elite 8 to Final Four are the two biggest games in the tournament, even though when you get to the Final Four, you get a chance to play for a national title. But you've made the Final Four. You've done something that will be anniversaries forever. 5 years, 10 years,
remember
15
those years.
There's a banner. There's no banner that's going to be hung for losing in the Elite Eight, or at least they shouldn't have one. If they did, there'd be 4 at the Mizzou Arena.
Missouri fans, we don't even claim we won a national championship. We just won a Final Four. Blow the doors off the Tigers by 60, but make the Final Four. I don't. That's a conversation for 100 years down the road. Finally winning one.
But round
make
of 32
a damn Final Four.
Round of 32 to 16 is a massive game because you're in the tournament another week. You're a talk of what you did that first weekend. You won your small little 14 bracket. Now you go to play another 14 bracket. And that's a big deal to go from 32 to 16. Obviously, it's a big deal to go from 8 to 4 because you're winning your region, but better opportunity to go from first weekend to second weekend because you get a whole nother week of enjoying the tournament as a fan base or as a player/coach, not necessarily hanging banners, although I think Nebraska should be having anniversaries of the team that went to the Sweet 16, considering they'd never won a game before ever.
There is no sport where making the semifinals matters more.
Yeah.
There's no sport. Think about it. There's no college football even.
NFL making your conference championship game. It's like, okay, you made the conference championship game. Did you win your conference? Getting to the Super Bowl is an accomplishment. Making the conference championship game, did you win it? No. Making the national semifinals, massive. Banner, anniversaries, rings, remembered forever.
No sport where just being a semifinalist matters more.
Yeah, look at Tom Izzo. I mean, that guy is amazing at winning 5 games in the tournament. I mean, the guy can win 5 games. Excuse me,
more
4
like
games.
4. I was going to say.
Sorry about that. The guy can win 4 games. He's one of the best at winning 4 games in the tournament.
I'd take it.
Yeah.
And that's just where also when you stack up all-time great coaches, how many of them do we say that's just a unanimous Hall of Famer right there? Tom Izzo. But
he's got 1.
He's got 1. And Dan Hurley, love him or hate him, like if he
2.
pulls it off tonight, I mean, he's got more than how many great all-time coaches, and he's done it in a really, really difficult era where it's hard to go back-to-back and win 3 or 4.
Yeah, Michigan has lost 2. Did Izzo lose 2 national championships? He won 1. And then they lost to North Carolina and Roy in Roy's second championship there in 2009 in that incredibly dominant North Carolina team.
Yeah. Was that Psycho T?
Yeah, I think that's the last time that Michigan. So I think Tom Izzo, out of all the Final Fours he's been to, he's only won the national semifinal one time, or 2 times. Sorry, he's been to 2 championship games in his career at Michigan. Like I said, he's one of the best coaches in America at winning 4 games. He just can't win that 5th game. And also, when we talk about blue bloods or sort of a dominant team controlling college, what?
He is 1-7
Yeah.
in Final Four games. 1-7.
Hangs
Well,
over
he's
your
got to
head.
have 2 wins because he's played for 2 championships.
It says
2000 they beat Florida, and
Yeah.
then in 2009 they.
Yeah, it says rep
they-
at 09. So
And
that
that was in Detroit.
Yeah.
Too.
I don't know
Yep,
why
it was in Detroit.
I don't know why it says 1-7 then.
Yeah, so he's got to be 2-7
Huh.
because he's made 7 Final Fours. But what would be interesting if Michigan wins tonight? Even though UConn we had a back-to-back winner, if Michigan wins tonight, 7 of the last 8 NCAA champions would be different teams, and 12 we already have with Michigan playing tonight. 12 of the last 16 teams to play in a national championship are different teams. You've had Michigan, UConn, Florida, Houston, Purdue, San Diego State, North Carolina, Kansas, Gonzaga, Baylor, Texas Tech, Virginia, Villanova, North Carolina. Well, I already mentioned North Carolina against Kansas. But 12 of the 16 teams are all different teams that have played for a national championship. I don't know what that means, but it's not like, the Dukes and North Carolinas of the world that it felt like, every year it was one of those teams. But maybe it's always been like that, and I just, never really noticed it because we've always seen those top teams that have just played and been there. And maybe especially during the 2000 aughts when it was like UConn or North Carolina, Florida winning 2, Duke, UConn, Kentucky, and UConn, and Duke, and Villanova, and North Carolina, and Villanova. It felt like maybe it was more like, this is kind of a team that's sustaining over 2 or 3 years, and then UConn is bucking that trend. If they were to win tonight, then you wouldn't have it. Also, the women's game is the same thing. As much as we talk about UConn being dominant, with UCLA winning yesterday against South Carolina, I think 6 of the last 7 national champions in women's college basketball have been different schools, which is not what we're used to with Tennessee or UConn or South Carolina winning every year. But UCLA gets their first national championship. So, I don't know. It's taken away some of the mid-majors and the Cinderellas, but NIL may be dispersing championship aspirations to more different teams if you can put it together with that team that particular year. I don't know. We'll take a time out, come back, continue rolling More Zone next. All right, wrapping up this hour, we'll talk with Joel Penfield, One Royal Way podcast coming up next. Talk some Royals with him. National championship game coming up tonight. That line is still 6.5 for Michigan. We'll see if it changes before tonight. I feel like that's right. Like, I look at that line and I don't really have a feeling one way or another where I go, boy, Vegas is begging you to put money on this team. Maybe they're begging you to put money on Michigan because it's quote-unquote only 6.5 when they were up by 30 on Arizona. But UConn's damn good. And even when they were down by a bunch to Duke, they still found a way to win that game. Joel Penfield next.
Joel Penfield on the Zone is brought to you by Reed Collision Center, serving Overland Park, Kansas City, and St. Joe. Get a free photo estimate in minutes at reedcollision.com. That's reedcollision.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, hanging out with Joel Penfield, One Royal Way podcast here in the Zone on a Monday. Joel, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Glad to be back in studio with you guys.
It is nice to have you back in studio. Baseball season up and running, 9 games in. Royals sitting 4-5. A lot of stuff to take away from that, but let's talk about these previous 3 games before they get set for a quick road trip against Cleveland and returning home against the White Sox. 3 versus Brewers. The run differential was even. They both scored 15 runs. They both had a game where they scored 8, 5, and 2, oddly enough. But the Royals lose 2 of 3. What did you, bigger picture before we look at some of these smaller little parts of this team, what did you take away from that 3-game series against one of the best teams in the National League?
Yeah, as respectfully as I can say, the Brewers are a pain to play. And I mean that is an incredible compliment. They do all the little things right, the little baseball-y stuff throughout games. There's a reason why they've won the second most games in baseball over the last 3 years. Since 2023, it's the Dodgers and then the Brewers. That's just what they've built.
Same payroll, too. That's what you got to deal with.
Exactly, it's exactly the same.
Do it the same way.
But, and what's incredible, too, is the Brewers are doing this without their most talented player. I think Bryce Terang is probably their best, but Jackson Chourio wasn't in the series either. And you wouldn't have known it if he was even on the roster with the way that they threw things together. But it shows where the Royals need to get. And doing those little things right was the thing I took away from this the most. Moving runners. Not chasing, walking, big 2-out hits. It's those sorts of things that can swing series that it was kind of coin flippy in some spots.
Yeah.
The Royals had a chance to probably take 2 or 3 in this series. I'll give them the game on Saturday afternoon, but you felt like the game was in the balance there and just couldn't do it quite enough things to make it happen. The Brewers had, I think, 3 or 4 consecutive innings with leadoff walks, and they cashed in those runs in the ninth, and that was ultimately the difference. Yeah, they had some runners in scoring position stuff swing back their way a little bit on Sunday, but not enough. And there's still some things this team needs to do. And I know that they're 4-5 and the season is over. I totally understand. You know, it's the way it goes. It's the only reason why you only play 162 games. But there's been still some things throughout these series that I've seen so far that make me think things are going to start trending in the right direction, but it just hasn't quite all come together yet. You know, in the way that we hope that it can over the next couple of months.
Yeah, the Brewers are a team that I think the Royals do want to be like
100%.
And emulate, especially offensively. I would describe watching the Brewers play against a team you root for, and I would probably think the pitchers for a team going up against the Brewers, their offense seems very annoying.
100%.
Stubborn. Frustrating.
They make your pitchers inefficient. I mean, you look up and it was all 3 games. You're like, Lewinder threw 25 pitches in the first. Luber threw almost 30. Bubic threw almost 30.
Yeah.
The amount of foul balls, and it's not like that they were up there nibbling a whole ton. Like they were just spoiling, and then eventually it's just like, screw it, I'm going to throw this in maybe in a nitro zone, just get the ball in play and see if we can end the plate appearance. And the Brewers cashed in those plate appearances. They made you make the mistake.
Well, and swing decisions is a big part of it, and not and working deep into counts and not chasing. And Connor Dawson, I remember when they hired him, one of the things he talked about was with the Brewers, and I've kept this quote just because, to see what the Royals would look like this season. And so far, I mean, they've done a pretty good job of swing decisions. But he said, we've kind of targeted a lot of good swing decision guys. This was talking about his time with the Brewers. We value it. A guy, he's proven it throughout his career in the minor leagues, too. Honestly, swing decisions are more of a transferable skill than a lot of other things. And then a big part of our philosophy was swinging at strikes, don't swing at balls. When you got guys that can do that, it's pretty valuable. Maybe the most controllable thing when it comes to hitting, and you just want to latch onto the things that are controllable. That's what the Royals brought over from the Brewers in Connor Dawson and that sort of philosophy. And we saw up close and personal how annoying it is. And I think what the Royals want to look like as an offense is what the Brewers did to the opposing team starters.
Where do you think the Royals rank in walks this season?
I looked at this the other day. But after the first 4 games, they were around an 8% walk rate, which is it was still in the bottom third, but it was closer to like 22nd in the league, which the last few years they've been at or near the bottom.
Yeah.
So it's trending up. It's trended up a little bit, but not quite where they want.
Where do you think they are, Jason?
15th.
They are 12th. They have the
12th in walks now.
12th most walks in baseball, which, by the way, they're behind some teams that have played 10 games. Now, they're not catching Houston, Seattle, Mets, but they would probably have caught at least one more team, the Braves. I mean, they are near the top 10, bottom of that number, in walks this year.
Now, is that total walks or walk percentage?
Total walks.
Okay.
Walk percentage might be a little bit different.
Yeah,
depending
I think that's what I was looking
They would
at. So that
actually
might
be
have been
better, more than likely, because they've only
Possibly,
played
yeah.
9 games compared to 10 of some of these teams.
Yeah. So we'll see if the offense can look like that on a consistent basis moving forward, because the Brewers have mastered that sort of thing and just like foul ball, foul ball, foul ball, which makes it tough when you've got a guy like Avila who makes his first start. And I'm not sure it was the best matchup for him to make his first start against a team that does not swing at strike-to-ball pitches. And he's a guy that wants to get swing and misses, and they didn't chase. He had 4 swings and misses the entire game, did Avila. They didn't chase outside of the zone. And he's making his first start against a team that does that is just so patient and has such a great approach. And their, quote, as Connor Dawson saying, swing decisions that they make is a tough one for him to start against. But I see some potential in what the Royals are doing this year, in that they're going up to the plate, and one of the more frustrating parts about it was the Royals were constantly 0-1 because they went up to the plate and said, well, we're just going to take the first pitch because we want to work deep into counts.
Yep.
Great. Now you're down 0-1. So cool strategy, How about if it's a strike and down the middle, do damage on it, That may be the
trying
best
to
pitch.
marry that sort of balance of like trying to work those counts and make it a conscious effort, but at the same time, man, the best pitch you may see in a plate appearance is the 0-0 fastball middle in.
Could be, yeah.
Go hammer it.
I got to get ahead 0-1 in this particular at bat, and I do think they've done early on through the first 9 games a pretty decent job of working deep into counts and setting themselves up with some advantageous counts. They haven't necessarily put together a couple of innings where it's like, okay, they put together 2 innings so far this year where they are just keeping the line moving through 9 games. You'd like to see it be a little more consistent. And they haven't seen the middle of the lineup come through in a big spot to sort of bust open a game or get back in a game or take a tie game and take the lead. Or they haven't felt like a big hit with runners in scoring position or 2-out RBIs like the Brewers lived off of this weekend. That was annoying.
I think the first 12 runs the Brewers scored in that series, even into the 4th or 5th inning on Sunday, they'd all come with 2 outs, which is just insane.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like that
Me
before.
either.
But the chase stuff is a huge part of what the Royals are trying to do. And they're not generally a team that chases a ton. They try and put the ball in play a lot. And chase, that's balls you put in play outside of the zone too. But like Michael Garcia is in the 94th percentile in chase percentage. Isaac Collins in the 97th. I think Vinny's in the low 90s. Jack Caglione is back to a league average chase rate, which if he's a league average chase rate guy, I mean, that's 25, 30 homers because he's able to do more damage in the strike zone. So you can see the vision and the process of it. Has it all come together? No. But that doesn't mean that this is the offense we're going to see the entire year as the sample grows, as these guys get more comfortable with Dawson and marrying it up with what Zumwalt's doing and all that. So I think it's in a decent place, and it could obviously room to improve, but I'm not totally down on it like I know the fans can be right now.
Joel Penfield is our guest. What do you make of Avila not sent back down? He was brought up for Bailey Falter in the IL, making the start for Waka. Wasn't the 27th man on the doubleheader. But then they, keep Avila up. Now, you can't keep the 27th man up, but they decide that Avila is now going to stay with the team. And I'm curious as to what you think the strategy and the plan's going to be. Does he just immediately slide into Bailey Falter's role where you want to keep him 4 or 5 innings, where Falter has only really pitched once, so they wanted to keep Avila stretched out as a starter, or keeping him up with the big leagues instead of sending him back down, which would then have to be down for 15 days as a pitcher?
Right.
Is it they're going to spot start him to maybe elongate the rotation and keep some guys fresher towards the end of the season? What do you think Avila's role is for an organization that said, we want him to be a starter?
Yeah, I think that he probably ends up in the Bailey Falter role, which previously had been the Daniel Lynch role of we don't want to just pigeonhole you into being a reliever. We still want you stretched out as a starter multiple innings if we can get you there. and maybe spot start here and there for a Noah Cameron or a Seth Lugo just to keep guys on the mix and match over the course of a full season when you have two guys with injury history and two guys that are in their mid-30s trying to keep their careers going. That might be the best way to do it rather than just have a true six-man rotation because that throws everything off, and it's not always ideal unless you're the Dodgers with Ohtani. Like, that's the only exception, not the rule. But I still just wonder about, is he just best as a reliever? And one start is not proof positive of that. Did it confirm my priors a little bit? Sure. But I'm not totally bought into just put him in the bullpen and just that is his role going forward. But you did see the fastball, the shape is not awesome, and it doesn't induce a lot of swing and miss. The curveball is an absolute hammer. And the fastball does explode out of his hand even at 96, but what would that look like at 99? Where in 1 or 2 inning spurts as opposed to trying to keep your stuff stretched out for 3, 4, 5 innings.
And in the first inning when he had, a 2-2 count, he pumped it in there at 98.
Yeah, he certainly got it there.
To a ball.
Yes, but it's in there, and that right. Upper 90s velocity is there, and it's what makes me so intrigued by him as a back-end reliever. And with some of the questions in the bullpen right now, there's opportunities for him in leverage situations because I trust Ursig, I trust Strom. Mears has shown he can be trusted. He's been really good. But outside of that, like John Schreiber once every 3 outings is going to blow up. Steven Cruz, I think the stuff is really good. Not all there. I can't trust him in a high leverage spot. Daniel Lynch has been up and down. Luinder Avila last year in the back end of the game, he was good in the bullpen. There's opportunities there with Seva still on the shelf, and who knows what he comes back or when he comes back. So there's opportunities there. They're going to keep him as a starter as long as they can. I just wonder at what point they just pull the ripcord and just go, hey, man, go give us the 7th.
If it wasn't for Chris Bubich, I would be completely on board with saying put this guy in the bullpen and call it a day. Because I was on board with just leave Bubich alone in the bullpen. Look how dominant he is. Look how good he is. And they were saying, no, we believe Bubich is a starter and can be a really good, effective starter. And it's like, okay, I'll take the wait-and-see approach. And then, wow, Bubich was awesome and looked really good. They have said the same thing about Avila of, well, we know he can be good in the bullpen, but we think he's going to be a really good, effective starter. If it wasn't for Bubich proving their theory correct, I would be like, go ahead and get it done and put Avila in the bullpen. I still think that's where his future is in the bullpen, but I'll give a little more grace and wait and see because they recognize what Bubich can do as a starter, even as dominant as he was in the bullpen.
Yeah, completely. I'll give, one start is not going to be the reason why Luinder Avila is a starter in the big leagues or not, but I also think it's fair to say the unique fastball traits that Chris Bubich possesses is a reason why he's able to sustain as a starter even at 92 or 93. Luinder Avila doesn't necessarily have that same from the right side. He doesn't get the same ride on his fastball. It's a little more sinker. Even the four seam, it's got more arm side run to it than just that straight vertical ride that Chris Bubich has. And you're talking about lefty-righty, but just fastball traits in general. I don't know if there's enough swing and miss in the fastball at 94 to 96 like Luinder would probably be, reach back for a 98. But average fastball, then it probably would be in the bullpen where it's 97 to 99. I think it adds a little bit more there.
Is there concern about the bullpen for you?
Not generally. Like I trust Ursig, Strom, Mears. Those guys are good, and I think Steven Cruz still has a chance to be really good. Got a little unlucky in that start or the outing on the day game. I think it was Thursday, where he threw 2 great cutters and sliders back, and the dude just they hit him backside. Like he's been a guy that's kept the ball in the yard for pretty much his whole career. But it's not quite all there. But he showed flashes last year that he can handle some leverage, and the stuff is good enough to hang out in the bullpen. But now it's just a matter of putting it all together, and he's still got some time, right? But I do have some concern. If Ursig's burned, if Strom is burned, then who do you go to? And I know Schreiber saved the game on Monday. I don't want him in the 9th inning all the time. Every once in a while when they really need it. And there's not a lot of depth right now, of true relievers in Omaha. Like Eli Morgan, shout out to him. Yeoman's working that the nightcap of the twin bill, but I don't know how much he can handle in the big leagues at this point. There's a reason why he was a non-roster invite guy. Eric Sarantola, maybe he's taken a little bit of a step forward in a small sample in Omaha, but still want to see a little bit more from him before I believe that he can really handle it.
I was a little surprised by Eli Morgan being a non-roster invitee. I know
I was a little bit too, yeah.
because his 25 was bad. Was he injured in 25 as well?
I believe so. I believe he was hurt.
Because his 24 was really damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Like his 2024 was really solid, and it wasn't like he was over exceeding the underlying metrics of where you're like, okay, yeah, this guy's gonna fall back to earth in 25. It was not that long ago Sam Long kept getting opportunities after having horrible years, off and on, right? So his 24 had a 1.93 ERA in 42 innings. And then 25, he only pitched in 7 innings. I'm like, okay, but you'd think he would have got a big league
potentially, yeah.
somewhere.
I mean, the fastball.
The White Sox could have, a bad team.
But again, I think that goes back to Sweeney and the pitch identification and trying to find guys to, and having that depth matters. And, we'll see what maybe a Mitch Spence can do. Still have Ryan Bergert, Stephen Kolek sitting there. And I know they're a bunch of starters, but at some point they may just go, hey, man, there's not starts for you, but there are innings in the big leagues. And we need you right now. And see how their stuff plays in those areas. I think Stephen Kolek could be a really good reliever and kind of a Schreiber-ish role that gets you a ground ball, gets you out of an inning. I think Bergert we may see a little uptick in stuff and strikeouts with him in a bullpen role, and then Mitch Spence, I have no idea what to but they traded for him. Clearly, they believe there's something there and there's options and controllable years. So they still have guys there, but they're guys they want to believe in as starters and not relievers. But at a certain point, you got to get innings. The big leagues got to get outs.
Yeah, Saturday they were really good out of the bullpen.
They were.
In the last 5 games, they got 19 walks.
That was the game, the rainout game.
Yes, there was a number of them in that rainout game.
Well, not a rainout game, but it should have been a rainout game.
The rainy game, yes. The terrible conditions. But even that, like you're up 12-1, the walks are even more inexcusable then.
Absolutely. Throw it over the plate, make them. Yeah. If there was no walks and they scored 8 runs, like okay, hey, they were trying to get out of the game. Like that's fine. But the traffic plus giving up the hits plus the home, it's like man. Yeah. There was zero reason for it, and I think a reason why they had to burn Ursig in that game. Would have been really nice to have him on Friday or on Thursday instead of Steven Cruz in that spot. Mm-hmm. You maybe don't give up 3 bombs in that spot, but hindsight's always 20/20. Visiting
with Joel Penfield, I wanted to ask you quickly about Carter, and then I want to get into Chris Bubich before we let you go. So Carter had the incident or whatever on that Thursday. I got in a conversation with somebody yesterday, and he and I are like on complete opposites of this conversation. Saturday, Carter starts, hits the double, gets to second base, does the celly with
the Steph Curry
night. You're sleepy, right? The celly does that at second base. And the guy I talked to yesterday was like, "That's just embarrassing." Like you're already somebody that you did that, and then you're sort of like making fun of it and acting like it's not that big of a deal. It was in poor taste. And to me, I was like the exact opposite. I'm like, you know what? The whole team was doing it. Yep. Everybody that got on base was doing the celly. That particular game, they don't do it every game. They have different celebrations. Mikel's been doing it, but they have different celebrations and things they do when they get on base. But that game, everybody was doing it. And I feel like in doing that, it's Carter and the team that have already said, like the team has already said, this isn't as big of a deal as you guys are making it out to be. Like he was here 90 minutes before first pitch. It's just in terms of being a catcher with Cole Reagans and preparing for the game, he wasn't there in time to go through that, so he's not playing. He missed the report time. He didn't show up in the 3rd or 4th inning. He was there 90 minutes before the game. You guys are making too much of this. To me, doing that is like taking ownership and flipping the negative into a positive and having fun with, hey, eventually you'll be able to laugh at it. And 2 days later, they were able to, as a team, say, let's have some fun with this. And Carter and the rest of the team were doing the celly and sleeping. I saw it as, you know what, this is them flipping it and taking ownership of, like, let's have some fun with this. Yeah, it sucks on Thursday, but, we're here.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Like, it is what it is at this point. The team was like, hey, this happened, and then they're done. They weren't talking about it the next day like the rest of the national media, and I think that story took on a life of its own in a way that I don't think.
TMZ. What is TMZ doing here?
So I thought about it more. I'm like, how did that story get so out of whack? There were 3 games that day. It was the only day game on Thursday. So what else was
and one of
the
the
national media going to talk about? One of the games got banged, and then it was 2 West Coast games.
And one of the games was like 17-2 that day, right?
Yeah,
was
that
the 17-2
that was the Braves
Braves?
Diamondbacks game that went 17-2. So it was one
what
of
are you
the.
talking
It was
about?
the definition
Yeah.
of slow news day. Let's talk about the rookie catcher in Kansas City that overslept, and then Vinny got on him, and
Yeah.
I think it was PJ Green for the Kansas City Star said that he looked Vinny and Bobby were watching him like 2 just disgruntled brothers, just like watching them just take punishment for it. But it is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
Like
I loved it. I
don't care.
Yeah.
Make fun of like if you're able to make fun of yourself, have a little bit of self-deprecation, then you put
Yeah.
yourself in a pretty good place. In my
And
opinion.
to me, the bigger part is that my concern was that he was 2 of 16, and that could then get in his head of
Yep.
being embarrassed, and now he's going up to the plate, and people are snickering, and then he's striking out and struggling, and now it's like this longer, extended, oh no, first at bat, boom, double down the right field
It made him
line.
wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Double down the right field line, scores 2, and then it's like, all right, here we go. Let's have some fun with this. I loved it, and I don't
His
know.
nightmare starts over.
Yes, thank you.
He can dream of a better tomorrow.
Yes. Well, I would like to be snoozing on your particular jokes here for a second. Last one with Joel Penfield, then we'll let you go. Chris Bubich, 2 starts in. The first inning combined in those 2 starts, 3 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 1 K. The other 9 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 walks, 11 Ks. How many more starts before, if this continues, before we say this is a trend or a problem, or the whole, boy, if you don't get Chris Bubich early, you're not going to get to him? Because it's only 2 games in, but the theme has been the same in those 2 games. The first game gave up the walk and the hit, got the caught stealing, but then also Jeffers had the long fly ball to right center that Isbell chased down, so he got barreled up on that one. And then the 2-run shot after what should have been a single to left field was turned into a triple and an RBI. And who knows if Sanchez hits a 3-run shot, if Lofton just plays that into a single. I have no idea. But first inning versus the other 9 innings that he's pitched, 11 innings total, he's been night and day different. It's only 2 games in, but anything to take away from that with Bubich?
Not necessarily. Someone tweeted about it yesterday that his first inning numbers last year were out of whack, and then after that he was fine. So it could just be like a quarterback in preseason. It's like, hey, I just need to get hit once, and then I'm good, and then I'm like in the game. So maybe he just needs to see a couple base runners. Like, all right, hey, we're good. Let's settle in.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Obviously, he doesn't want to be doing those things, but I'm not that concerned about it because what we've seen after the fact was fine. And self-admittedly, he didn't pitch that great yesterday, and he still had 8 strikeouts and 18 swings and misses on a team that doesn't swing and miss. He had the fastball working. When he was around the zone, he was fine, but the 2-out walks are what killed him.
Yeah.
And that was a big reason why he gave up the 4 earned runs. But I mean, he's still pitching pretty well. I mean, he pitched well on Monday, and that was a game where he threw 20 pitches in the first inning and then 55 in the next 5. So
maybe he might just be a pitcher to where the opposing team goes, we better get him in the first, because after that he settles in, and boy, he's
sometimes his
difficult.
command is a little all over the place in the first inning as he's trying to find it, but then once he settles in, then he's nails. So
he's looked awesome.
It feels like a lot of really good pitchers have that issue. It feels like Garrett Crochet. I remember Chris Sale. It's almost that first inning, you're right, of great pitchers. If you don't get to them in the first, you're not
then they
getting
settle
to
in,
them.
and then they find their stuff, and once they find their stuff, they're so good, and the stuff they have in the command, then it's like, oh, well, now you're SOL.
It's like any sport. You can try and emulate in warm-ups, or let's say you're a golfer, you hit the range. Well, yeah, you might be hitting great on the range, but all of a sudden what happens when you get actually on the course and you don't have a great lie, or you have to figure out what you're working with once you get out there, and it feels like the greats, they're able to adjust, and I'm not going to say Bubich is a great quite yet, but I think it's a good observation there.
Yeah, he's shown over the last 2 years that when he's healthy, can be one of the better left-handed pitchers in baseball. He's not in the Crochet Skubal tier, but certainly maybe a couple down, but that's still an all-star pitcher.
Yep.
And he's going to continue to put himself in position to succeed, and this rotation has been very, very good, save opening day from Cole. Been great otherwise.
Joel Penfield, One Royal Way podcast. Joel, you're the man. Appreciative as always hanging out with us, man.
Absolutely. Glad to do it.
He is presented each and every time we talk with him by Reed Collision Center. We'll take a time out. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll talk a little football coming up on the other side of the break. The NFL made their decision around Rashee Rice, and we'll talk some college basketball. Mick Schaefer will join us coming up at 1 o'clock. Learn funniest, best, more. Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy. Thank you to Joel Penfield, One Royal Way podcast, joining us talking about the Kansas City Royals. They get set for a 3-game, little quick road trip against the Guardians before returning home this weekend against the White Sox. Tied with the White Sox right now for second place in the division behind the Guardians. A big 3 games here because, you want to take the season series against these teams. Losing the season series to the Brewers, okay, that's fine. Guess what? They're not going to have a tiebreaker against the Brewers. But they will against the Guardians, potentially the White Sox. Hopefully not, because, White Sox have had a decent start, but let's be honest, they shouldn't be a team to where you are battling with at the end of the season, even though you're tied with them through 9 games.
They literally already have a minus 24 run differential.
Yeah. There will be another 9-game stretch where the Royals may have the same record as the White Sox, and not necessarily because of the Royals struggling, but the White Sox may be playing above their head a little bit. So 913-912-4810. Wanted to give an update as well. Earlier in the show, we had mentioned that Bryson Tiller put his name into the transfer portal. Paul Mbaya for Kansas has also put his name into the transfer portal. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But a lot of players today, the day before the portal opens, are putting their name into the transfer portal from some pretty big schools, putting their name into the transfer portal. Mo Diabate from Kentucky is transferring. DJ Wagner from Arkansas is transferring.
Oh, wow.
J.P. Estrella from Tennessee is transferring. Braden Pierce from Villanova has put his name into the transfer portal today, all in the last couple of hours. So we're seeing some guys make their final decisions as to where they want to go and what they want to do.
Hard to believe all those schools have new head coaches, and that's why they're leaving.
That's exactly right.
Is that what it is, right?
That's the only way that I could, understand it. So Braden Smith Gonzaga is the latest one. About 5 minutes ago, put his name into the transfer portal. He was a reserve guy at Gonzaga, but he was formerly the Patriot League Player of the Year when he transferred to Gonzaga, but didn't play all that much this last year, so he's transferring as well. So there's the update on some of those transfer portal names that are in there. Locally, P.J. Haggerty put his name into the transfer portal earlier today. It opens up tomorrow for 2 weeks, so we'll see what happens with that, who the local teams will end up getting, and how much, if you can, copy off, replicate what Michigan was able to do in roster construction in having one player that's a starter and 3 total players that even participated in last year's Sweet 16 game for Michigan that are on the roster this year for Michigan, because they have completely flipped the overall roster with number 1, number 26, and number 46 transfers, and then the number 20 overall player in Trey McKinney. That was the number 3 shooting guard. And that's what they've done and brought them together, and they are a dynamite team in doing that. So it can be done from one year to the next. The NFL has presented their ruling against Rashee Rice. They have come away with what was quoted as insufficient evidence to support a finding that Rashee Rice violated the personal conduct policy for the NFL. That is from, by the way, Pete Sweeney at the Kansas City Star, that Rashee Rice's agent or lawyer, whoever it was, put out that Rashee Rice has been completely cleared by the NFL and did nothing wrong. And so Pete Sweeney then reached out to the NFL and said, okay, well, is that what this finding is? And that he did not violate the personal conduct policy, that he did nothing wrong, is completely innocent and totally cleared? And their response was there was insufficient evidence to support a finding that he violated the personal conduct policy. Innocent and not guilty are different things, but also the NFL is not the
judge
rule
or
of
jury.
law. Yeah, so not a court.
Separate.
Yes, it's completely different. And typically we've seen the NFL not necessarily bring down penalty and suspensions to players without charges being filed. So it looks like right now, without added evidence or something different than what the NFL has already investigated to this point, that they are now moving on from the Rashee Rice investigation, that if nothing else comes out, this is then put behind him and he continues to move forward. It doesn't change my view of not being able to trust Rashee Rice, even with this from the NFL. Because we talk about benefit of the doubt and things like that. There was insufficient evidence to support that he violated the league's personal conduct policy. Okay, insufficient evidence could also be that she decided not to say anything or not to cooperate with the NFL's investigation. Could certainly be the case. Could also be that the NFL looked into it and said, oh, this whole thing is bogus. But then it would be like, I think the wording would be different. Why would they then have to clarify to Pete Sweeney, the Kansas City Star, that, well, no, what we're saying is that there's insufficient evidence. Not that he did absolutely nothing wrong and there was nothing there to even begin with. It just was insufficient to prove that he violated the personal conduct policy. He's still a player to me that his name has been around way too often in the off-the-field stuff. Obviously with the road racing. But then you've got, whatever issue took place at the nightclub with the photographer. And he may have been completely innocent in that and may have been the victim of that. Then you've got this that comes out. And the insufficient evidence may mean nothing was there. It could mean that she didn't want to talk anymore. But it's also his name being brought up yet again. And so when we talk about guys you can or can't trust, people have their fun, to draw a small, parallel. People have their fun with Rick Pitino. It's like, well, Rick Pitino was a scumbag. Like, he's a terrible person. Well, you go back to the court case and him with the boys at the restaurant. And the reason we found out about all of those things is because he was defending himself as being extorted by the lady that he did have an affair with on his wife. That happened.
Yeah.
But he was being extorted. That lady went to jail for like 3 years for extorting Rick Pitino. But he's a scumbag because of some of these things that happened. Now, that was proven to happen because he talked about it on the stand. That is evidence that he admitted to. That is different than what is going on here. But you also have something that Rashee Rice has already admitted to in felonies that were, placed on him because of the road racing incident that took place. But there are two other things that have come up. It's just simply an overall picture of, if you get through this season without incident, great, fine. You move on and find another player to play that particular position, or whatever skill set, Sterling, you coveted in that particular role that Rashee Rice gave you. Can you find somebody else?
Again, affairs are different than felonies.
Yes.
But I think the reason why even the photographer thing does matter to an extent, even if it was all the photographer's fault, which it almost sounds like at least he was egged on, and it sounds like Rashee Rice maybe wasn't even there anymore. Yeah, and if the blame
he'd been there at one point and then left.
Yeah, but the thing that still gets me at least a little bit is, you already have the felony. What are you doing out? I'm not saying like you have to just go home and read a book for 24 hours a day and do nothing. But if you just had something serious and you're still doing, like,
that was the same off season. That was the same summer. That was a few months later.
What's the thought process there of hey man, I should probably not do any of these things? Because at some point, fair or not, you have to have the understanding of, all right, I messed up once. I did something real bad, and we got to think about, what does my future look like monetarily speaking? To how can I get that second contract? I got to make sure I do nothing wrong because I want that. I want the money. I want that second contract. I want to get all these things. If I am no longer in the tabloids for again, everything I've done or not done, but if I can stay out of the tabloids and be productive, I'll still find a way to get a second contract, and I can put that behind me, and I will have learned and proved to everyone that I've learned. But when you keep getting in the news for situations off the field, it's not just the Chiefs. At some point, there needs to be an understanding of, hey, my career might be over before it started. My career might not take that next step of where I want it to go.
Yeah, eventually, if your name keeps getting brought up in different things, it starts to become a you issue.
Taylor Swift wrote about it. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
I don't think she was talking about Rashee Rice, though.
I didn't know if it was about the situation or not. I'm not sure. I didn't know when that song came out.
When she wrote that, I'm not sure she knew who Rashee Rice was or existed.
But the point remains, don't surround yourself then. If you're doing nothing wrong, if everything has been outside of the felony, which was, camera, and if the other two situations were completely and utterly false, if that actually is the truth, if they were both completely false, then why are you surrounding yourself with said people?
Yeah.
At some point, you still have to take some responsibility for what you're putting yourself into, the spots, the situations. Again, no one's going to be perfect. I'm not saying no one's ever done anything wrong, that I've never messed up or done anything wrong. But when you have so much on the line, it becomes even more paramount. You can't even be involved.
But also, like, when you have something as public as it was with the road racing.
Yes.
You then take the approach of, like, I can't be involved in anything else. Okay, so then this takes place with the photographer, and we talked about it at the time, that it sort of seemed like he was the victim in that there may be somebody trying to extort money, trying to get money out of Rashee Rice and make something up, and it's like, at that point, if you're Rashee Rice, you're like, okay, so what can I can only stay home? Like, we rented a private, or we had a private area that we paid for, whatever table or whatever in the VIP area that nobody else was supposed to be around. This photographer was like from somewhere else with the group. He had left. Then the video shows that he wasn't even around when the photographer was leaving and all this other stuff. And it's like, all right, so what am I supposed to do? Just not do anything? And it kind of felt like he didn't do anything the rest of the time. He tore his ACL. That sucked. But then going through the rehab, and not this past offseason, but the offseason before, the distraction was just simply, would he be suspended? So it wasn't a distraction that he was doing because of his own volition that offseason. It was still carrying over from the previous offseason because they hadn't made the decision yet. And we didn't know what the court case would end up being until we know, okay, now he's pleaded to this. He's working with the victims over here. He's paying restitution. Now the NFL can get involved and give their particular penalty and hand that down. And we know ultimately it was 6 games. And that was disappointing. But then what took place after that, to me, was just as disappointing because you had some George Pickens in your game on the field. And the difference between Rashee Rice and George Pickens, besides George Pickens being a much more consistent high-level receiver, is that George Pickens things were taking place on the field. Rashee Rice is combining off the field with, well, now you're kind of dogging it on plays on the field. So now you're doing the things that George Pickens was doing that got him traded without having the issues of potential suspensions outside of the playing field. That's what added to it for me for Rashee Rice is, can you trust him off the field? Maybe, maybe not. Can you trust him on the field? Maybe, maybe not. But if I have questions about both of those things, then I don't have a question of whether or not I should sign him long term.
So at least for this upcoming season, he's playing. Barring injury,
or something else coming out.
Because it says the NFL said his investigation is closed. Mm-hmm. It said this particular is closed.
Yes, as long as there isn't anything added to it.
Sure.
Right.
And
it's not a double jeopardy thing to where he's already been tried.
This is not it's not the court of law.
Not guilty, and
the
then
NFL.
he can't be tried for the same thing. If she presents other evidence or somebody else presents evidence, then you can start to add into it. There's insufficient evidence with this one. As it stands right now, Sterling, I agree. If nothing else happens, he'll be on the field this year.
And so, at least from the on-field perspective, that means you have Rice, you have Worthy, you have Tyquan, you still have Royals. That alleviates some of the, I think, wide receiver concern for this upcoming season. Going forward, there still will be, because this is the final year of his contract. And again, we've talked about the extension and all of those situations. What do you or do you not do? But to me, that at least alleviates some of the, well, you have to bring in a guy or you have to overpay for Juwan Jennings, which looks like no one's going to do. It looks like the NFL is just basically saying, hey, no team's overpaying for Juwan. It doesn't make you forced to draft a wide receiver at 9.
Well, yeah, that's the part of this that is different from the 2019 NFL draft in that the Chiefs had no clarity on Tyreek Hill when the draft happened. They have clarity on Rashee Rice. Because if he would have been found to have committed these things by the NFL, it might have been a year-long suspension.
Yeah.
And if it's that long, you go into the draft and it's like, okay, at number 9, we might be looking at having to take a wide receiver here because we're sort of done with Rashee Rice. But also there's the unknown if you go into April 23rd and the NFL is still investigating Rashee Rice, and you don't know if they will find anything. You don't know if they will come back with he did not violate the personal conduct policy with the evidence that we looked at. They have clarity now.
Yeah, from the Chiefs' perspective, this is massive. Having it now, prior to the draft.
You got 2.5 weeks now before the draft that you know
Yes.
exactly what the deal is currently with Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
With that particular investigation. Let's take a time out. We'll come back, continue rolling, wrap up this hour. Mick Schaefer joins us at 1 o'clock. More Zone next. All right, wrapping up this hour, we'll talk with Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, presented by Advent Health Sports Park at Blue Hawk. We got Learn Funniest Best coming up in the 1 o'clock hour as well. Coming up in about 30 minutes from now, we'll talk some Learned Funniest Best with Mick Schaefer. Royals in action later this afternoon against the Guardians, sitting 4-5 right now, as Michael Wacha will go to the mound after battling an illness, which scratched him from a start against the Brewers over the weekend. Avila started that first game on Saturday, pushing him back to start tonight against the Guardians.
And Walker looked great his first time out.
He did.
Incredible his first time out.
0 ERA for Michael Wacha. He hasn't given up a run in 2026 in ever. He has never taken the mound in 2026 and given up a run as a starter. Amazing.
Twitter thinks he's funny.
Shame on you nerds.
His wife and kids think he's lame.
No!
We couldn't get Paul, so we're stuck with Mick.
Yep. Okay, still got it going on.
Mick Schaefer on The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
All right, Monday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Hanging out with Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, presented by Advent Health Sports Park at Blue Hawk. Learn Funniest Best coming up in the next segment. Mick, how are you, sir?
Really bothered.
Why?
I've been just kind of get something thinking about this commercial.
Which one?
It started airing during the Super Bowl, but it's still on. And I feel like I'm mad about the commercial, but I'm also mad there's not enough outrage over it.
Okay.
You've surely seen it. It's a guy and his kid, and they're driving. And in the back, the kid is holding one of those big mouth Billy Basses that you hang on the wall. Have you seen this?
Sure.
And the fish
Take
sings
me to the water,
Yes,
or river.
100%. That's it.
Yeah.
And so we've all seen those before. They had their time. And so they go to the river, and then they somehow detach the fish from the backing, and then they put it in the river, and it immediately becomes a real fish, right? It's like Pinocchio
is
fish.
It a magic river?
It's a magic river, magic fish, whatever. It becomes a real boy. A nanosecond later, a bear the size of a bus pounces on it, and you see the eyes like, scream. And the bear takes it out. And then the dad just covers the kid's eyes, like, don't watch this. And so I have so many questions about it. Like, first of all,
I've not seen this.
I honestly have not seen this one, but I want to watch it.
You can find. First of all,
Is it a horror movie? Or?
I don't know. It's a Jeep commercial, obviously. And so
You haven't seen it, Sterling?
I have a Jeep too. That's weird.
I thought you got all those.
So-
on
We all
repeat.
hang out. Yeah.
So they're taking it to the. I'm like, it's inanimate in the car, right? It's in otherwise. I mean, it's been on the wall for a long time. Fish out of water, literally.
I don't think it's going to survive that
I'm
long.
like, are you going to litter? Are you taking that thing to just dump it in this gorgeous spring creek?
That would be
lake,
bad.
river? Yeah.
Like, how do they know it's a magic fish that turns back to
Right.
life? Yeah, they don't.
How
know
would they know?
They don't know.
And then I'm going
Magic
to
legs.
suspend reality. Just give me the rules. So puts it in. Fish becomes a real fish, swims away, and they're like, their jaws aren't hitting the floor. And
Yeah, they're like,
this is something that happens in our life. Okay, fine. And then immediately there's a bear that the size of a building that they didn't see there, pounces, eats the fish. Couldn't be 20 feet away at most from them.
Yeah.
There's no reaction of, I'm just going to cover my kid's eyes. You're in danger.
Yeah,
You're
run
next.
Well, is it a brown bear? Brown lie down.
They're
Yeah.
not even lying down.
Yeah, they're not even lying down.
And they're just no big deal that the fish became a Pinocchio fish, and no big deal that there's this giant bear near us.
But does it make you want to buy a Jeep?
Was it a cult classic?
Was it a cult
bear?
classic bear?
For some reason, I want to buy a Jeep now.
I had to look it up. I'm like, who did? And so it keeps. You guys
Okay.
have had to have seen this
Jeep
commercial.
I've not seen
commercial
it.
Billy Bass.
Yeah, and I bet there's a Reddit page out there of people like me.
Oh
that are
wow,
just
there's
bitching
a
about it.
minute 47.
Yeah, the one that usually plays like a 30-second spot.
Okay. Oh, you know what? There is a.
Do they explain more in the minute 47 spot? Like, there's a magical dust that gets sprinkled on this big mouth Billy Bass?
I don't. Wow.
I can't stand it.
So anyway, the North Carolina Tar Heels landed their big fish they were searching for.
Who'd they get?
They got. They went to the NBA. They got the NBA coach they were looking for.
Take me to the NBA.
Yep, they got themselves the NBA coach. You know, and you can go ahead and tell me the NBA coach that North Carolina's been trying to get, right?
Karl Malone. No, Michael Malone.
Michael Malone, not Billy Donovan. Michael Malone, they go to the NBA
I
ranks.
can't imagine that's going to be a big splash amongst.
I'd assume he'd be decently.
Tar
I mean, he was
fans.
a long-time NBA guy. Did fairly well in the NBA. I would imagine he's at least.
But this is a school that wants a long-time Tar Heel guys. Was he a Tar Heel guy?
He's not a Tar Heel guy. They did not go in the family.
We want
outside the family.
We
Has he
want
ever
Billy Donovan,
coached?
NBA coach.
Has he coached in college ranks?
Let's see. He was an assistant at Oakland and Providence and Manhattan before he moved on to be an assistant with the Knicks, Cavs,
what a
Hornets,
dud
Warriors.
hire. He might be great, but
How old is he? He's got to be.
He's 54.
yeah.
Oh, that's it. I
Yeah,
thought
he's
he was
54
older.
years old. BYU went the NBA route with Kevin Young, and they've got a couple of recruits.
Was he a head coach?
He was an assistant. He was a head coach for the Suns, right?
I can't keep track.
Kevin Young for BYU. Let me look at it. I thought he was a. Sorry if I.
I mean, he's an
forgot all
NBA
about
champion,
your-
Michael Malone.
Yeah, he is.
Okay. I'm just showing me an NBA champion. I'll show you if a coach is going to get fired in 18 months.
Okay, so the Phoenix Suns, he was the associate head coach. So I'm just remembering the associate part. So he wasn't an official head coach. He got hired by BYU. And some of the recruiting, outside of a lot of money that they're paying to the players, is a part of, hey, I want to go to this guy because he knows about the NBA, he develops guys, and he can, get guys into the NBA in that development. That's what I want to be. He's done a pretty good job at BYU
Has
since
North
been there.
Carolina had an issue getting guys to the NBA?
That's the problem. Is North Carolina just can't recruit
just
stud
can't
players.
get right.
I
I
always
can't-
think of North Carolina and BYU needing to take the same approach to recruiting.
Exact same, yes.
Is we need somebody to really give us an edge here at North Carolina. It's going to be a pretty uninspiring hire.
Agreed.
By North Carolina
Well,
fans.
no. You know what they're doing? They're
What are they
doing
doing?
things differently at UNC with Belichick, and now they're going to run things like a professional organization. Remember when Belichick got hired?
Oh,
He
yeah,
goes,
that worked in
We're
football,
going
didn't
to run like a professional organization. That's what Michael Malone's going to do.
Well, that's what they're missing. They're missing somebody to be professional. Is what they're missing. I don't know if he's better than Hubert Davis. We'll see. Hubert Davis played for a national championship, but most people feel like he wasn't good enough for that
North
job.
Carolina, he's going to have to be significantly better than Hubert Davis.
Yep.
And better than John Shire. They won't put up with it.
That's right. And John Shire, guy's been to a Final Four already. Blown a couple leads, but he's been to a Final Four, and he's a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
Shire's a hell of a coach. I would take John Shire from
Cooper Flag would have just played in that championship game like he did last night. Then
That's right.
he would have a championship.
Or in the Final Four, in the national semifinal.
Was it semifinal? Yes,
Yeah, semifinal when they blew that huge lead. But we got a national championship game coming up tonight. Dusty May is somebody that North Carolina was thinking about hiring. Tommy Lloyd, North Carolina was interested in hiring. They don't go that route for either of those because, Dusty May is probably not going to Lane Kiffin this thing and leave to take over North Carolina the day of a national. You know what? I know that we're playing in the Final Four, but I think I got a real shot to win a national title at North Carolina.
Lane Kiffin would totally do that right now. If Alabama said, like, in 1 year, LSU makes it, like, you know what? But Alabama wants me, I'm going. Sorry,
It's
fellas.
different. I can win a national title at Alabama
Does the portal open today?
tomorrow.
Okay, tomorrow. I had
For
heard
only
today.
2 weeks.
I was going to say, how is college basketball or sports so bad with schedules?
Yeah.
If it opened today, I'm like, just give them a beat. Give it tomorrow.
It opens tomorrow, and it was always.
Is this the legal tampering period? Maybe?
Yes, right now it is
Illegal.
Yes.
24/7, 365 is the
When they
legal
first
tampering
had the
period.
portal, it was 4 weeks, and now it's only 2. So I think that's where you have the urgency of getting a coach in.
Yeah.
Because you've got 2 weeks to land transfers and things like that. So we'll see. And I am very curious as when the portal opens, how long it takes some of these players to figure out where they want to go, what school and coach they want to play for, and how much they're getting, all in about 5 minutes.
Right,
to
yes.
10 minutes. That real recruiting and courting process between the two, speed dating. And I am really fascinated with how quickly these kids can make that decision, and the schools can make the decision with how much they're going to pay each particular player.
It's all
because you can't
boilerplate.
contact until the portal opens tomorrow.
How many youngsters do we have in the portal? Do we have a number?
Hey, nice, Roy.
Youngsters, yeah.
Youngsters had their hearts ripped out.
They did. If I had my druthers, I wouldn't have a portal. I'll tell you that right now.
That's why I went ahead and retired. I ain't done with this portal stuff.
UNC is a portal to the NBA. That's what we are.
The portal stuff, not down with it, Bonnie. Stop asking me these stupid damn questions, Bonnie. It's not very nice for you to do that. On Thursday, there were 800 players.
Yeah,
on the
that's what
portal.
I heard, and that feels low.
Well, that was Thursday. So there's been about 40 enter their
and
name
wait,
today.
and how are you in the portal if it hasn't opened yet?
well,
just guys that had declared.
Yeah,
I
you're
guess.
entering the portal. It officially opens tomorrow that you can be contacted by some schools when you're actually in the portal tomorrow. But
That's why it's so
Haggerty
fast.
came in
It's a
today.
portal. You're portaling. It's
Yeah,
fast.
that's right.
You communicate faster. It's like they suspend reality.
Local players, 4 local players have put their name in the portal as of today. PJ Haggerty, or 3 actually. PJ Haggerty, Bryson Tiller, and Paul Mbaya.
What about Abdi Bashir? He
put it,
announced
but just
yesterday.
today. Abdi
Just
Bashir,
today.
it was yesterday, yeah. But today, this morning, since an hour before our show started, 9 o'clock, it's been Haggerty, Tiller, and Paul Mbaya have put their name in
And
the
then
portal.
Flory and
Flory
Abdi
is-
Bashir.
Has Flory added any other avenues that he could take?
I'm not sure.
Dude, NBA portal.
We saw-
come back to KU. Mormon mission.
Bethany and I
Greece.
were getting ready to fly back on Friday. We were sitting at the airport in Indianapolis and getting off the flight and walking to. And it's like, oh, there's Flory right there. What's he doing in Indianapolis? Huh, why is he here on the?
Well, he wasn't playing on the Flory.
Yeah, no, that's badunga dunk. Nice job. It's a rim shot. Badunga. But we saw him there at the airport. I was gonna walk up and be like, Flory, big fan, man, big fan. Are you coming back to KU this year? Oh, we could get see if he said anything, But I didn't do that.
As a Mizzou guy, you didn't sabotage
But
it.
I decided not to do that. Good. Okay.
Did he do the? Did he declare last year for the draft when he did this? So he did the same thing.
Yep, and then went in the portal, and then came back and signed the deal. He is
Very loyal.
As it stands right now, he is the
By
number
far
one player.
the best center.
He's the
Is
number
he
one
a
player.
too. Yeah.
At 24/7's consensus, he's the number one player. Bryson Tiller's number 20 player in the portal. Tiller is a little bit of a surprise because my theory on Tiller is that he entered in the portal today because I assume that KU and Tiller had been talking and negotiating to try to figure out to keep him the way that Missouri did Trent Pierce. And you enter the portal today because it never came to an agreement, and you're going to test the waters of the portal to see if there are other schools out there that want to offer you. And maybe KU said, look, this is what we're offering you. This is what your value is. If you want more than that, then if somebody's willing to do that, go talk to them. Come back to us, and we'll talk. Flory returned last year, but this is the most we're going to pay you.
Both
right
going
now.
would be big loss, a big loss.
And
for
Mbaya.
KU.
You'd have all 3 of your big men that played last year. On
Hunter
that particular
Dickinson,
team.
his return.
Might as well. Just do it. No one's in NCAA.
Michael, you good with that?
They're not going to do anything.
You good with that?
Not good with that.
A
no.
3-for-1 trade, Mbaya, Tiller, and Flory for Hunter.
What is Hunter? Is he on an NBA bench somewhere?
He's in a G. He's with the Pelicans G League, I want to say.
There we go. He's collecting a check. He's getting paid.
I'd do it.
Still was
He's gonna be
unathletic in the G League too.
He's going to be a pro.
100%.
I'd do
he'll
that,
be
though.
getting- he'll be
If you
getting
told
a
me I could
check.
play G League and only that, yeah, sign me up.
I'm just
Awesome.
telling you, you
I
can't
would
play
think so,
G-League.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Until
no,
those people decide-
no
Okay.
chance of making the NBA. You just G League only. Yeah.
There might be
I'm
some,
in.
there definitely are some overseas opportunities that are way more lucrative probably than G
Yeah,
League.
but you have to live overseas.
That could be a cool thing, though.
There's some nice spots.
Yeah,
Not
you get
just
in the right
America.
league. You get in the right league, that could be a cool thing.
You ever heard of Spain?
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
You ever heard of that one?
I do like paella.
Stan?
Yeah.
Do you like Mbaya? No, we'll see. But it opens tomorrow. I think there'll be a lot of commitment starting tomorrow. You got 2 weeks to get these kids signed, and lots of them in the portal. And it's all about roster construction. We've talked about that a lot. I find it really interesting with the Tyron Stokes conversation with KU.
What's he waiting on? I guess the portal?
Best and final. He's waiting on what's your best and final for me to go there. What I find interesting about the Tyron Stokes is because I feel like there are 2 different ideologies in talking about Tyron Stokes, and it's conflicting in terms of what you would want to have happen if you're KU or Bill Self. Is on one side of it, you talk about, well, Bill Self has been so good at developing players, and shouldn't it be about retention and keeping the guys around? And, these one-and-done players, it's not necessarily what Bill Self is good at. And you had Melvin and Trey White and Darren Peterson, 3 of your 5 starters were there for just a year. You had a couple of guys return, but Cole Rosario was new as well. So you had 4 of your top 6 players were guys that had, been there for that first year in the program. And Bill Self is a guy that's a builder. So we've got that conversation. Then on the flip side, it's, boy, I don't know, can you turn down the number 1 player in the country? If Tyron Stokes wants to go play for Kansas, he can't really turn down the number 1 player. And my point is, so which is it? Can you not turn down the number 1 player if you're Bill Self and go down the same road we've been talking about Bill Self going down? Or you take the money that you were going to pay Tyron Stokes and you focus on retention and then bringing in some others, as opposed to you're taking your NIL collective money and throwing it at Stokes And now you've got Stokes on the court with TK and Cole Rosario, and not sure who else you're going to get if you're paying Stokes all that money. And you've got Stokes and TK that both operate with the ball in their hands, kind of like Melvin and Darren, both with the ball in their hands. I know it's hard for me to say Bill Self does this, and he's got to adjust, and then go and give Tyron Stokes $5 or $6 million to go to KU.
He's always gone after the one and dones. Despite the notion and the fact that guys get better there, and he develops guys, and their best teams have been veterans. I was trying to think of the Final Four teams he's had. Have they had a standout freshman on any of them? I mean, 08 was all the juniors. 12 was leftovers from that great 11 team. 18, I don't remember any.
Was Sylvia a freshman?
But no one.
DeSosa? Oh, he
wouldn't
have played
out, but it wouldn't have been like a one.
Well, he clearly played minutes because they had to vacate the Final Four.
Yes, he did have a good run there. He played well. I can't remember if he's a freshman or not.
I don't know if he was. It might have been the only one we're talking about.
But it wasn't Wiggins, right? It wasn't an Embiid. It wasn't a Kelly Oubre. It wasn't a
22.
Josh Shelby. Should have been Josh Shelby in 11. But
right. The one guy on 22 was Remy, but he wasn't a freshman. He was a first-year guy. And he wasn't a guy that has to lead them there. You know, it was a Darren Peterson type issue, but it wasn't a Darren Peterson type issue where Remy was supposed to be the number one pick and the reason why you can go to a Final Four and win a national championship. Remy was going to be a nice piece to surround there, and then he turned it on in the tournament and helped them win the national championship, but it was ultimately about the, other 4 or 5 guys that were on that team that had been on the team the previous year that had got blown out by USC. And then they all returned. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, can you win a national championship with this group that can't get to the Sweet 16? Yeah, because you allow them to get better over the years. You allow them to get better. And if it's all about retention and developing for Bill Self, then do you want to go down the route of 2 of your starting 5 being one-and-done kids, in Stokes being the number 1 player in America, that it feels like the school he's going to play for is just the school that pays him the most money?
Yeah. I tell you, give me a top 75 kid as a junior over a top 25 kid as a freshman, pretty much every time. There's exceptions, obviously, but just that age matters, especially at that age, right? From 18 to 21, and you develop so much, and that's unfortunately a part of the game that's been taken away from a lot of these programs, even the power programs we've seen.
Yeah, Yaxel Lindenberg was, if we're just looking at Michigan, he was the number 1 transfer. But
where was he before?
He was at UAB. Yeah, he played for Dusty May
for a couple of years.
And then just the stars for Florida last year was when Sienna. Broom was I can't remember.
Oh, Iona.
Iona. That's right.
No. Broom was
Walter Clayton was Iona.
Yeah, Walter.
Right? Yeah.
Broom was Moorhead
something
or
like that. Yeah.
Murray. He was Murray State. Broom was Murray State. But Yaxel was at UAB with Dusty May 2 years ago. And then Dusty went to Michigan. Yaxel stayed 1 more year at UAB. And then he was the number 1 recruit in the portal. But he's also 23 years old.
Yeah.
They've got guys that are, Burnett is a guy that's like 23 years old. Mara is an older player.
He changed his game when he got hurt the other night. Dusty May talked about it. He's like, it became like the 38-year-old guy at the YMCA, right? He's backing guys down. He's finding new ways to score, and whatever way he has to play for us, he's going to help us tremendously come Monday night. I thought that was a great point. That, it's another part of experience. You can, score in different ways. You've seen so much more basketball at that level, and it's a great example of he's going to be the best player on the court tonight.
Yeah, you got Elliot Cadeau's in his 3rd year. Burnett's in his, I believe, 5th year. Gale's in his 4th or 5th year. Lindenberg's in his 5th year. Mara's in his 3rd year. Mo Johnson and Trey McKinney are the youngest players. Mo Johnson's a sophomore, and Trey McKinney's a freshman.
Melvin Council was the best player for KU most of the year. Nobody had heard about him because he was at St. Bonaventure and somewhere else. Before he got to KU.
I just think it's to me, it's an interesting part of this offseason. If we say Bill Self is so good at retention. And right now on the team is what? Rosario, El Marco, and McDowell? With the other guys entering the transfer portal and graduating? That's an NBA?
I think
he's so good at retention
before all this.
And building, but it's going to be like a brand new team because are they going to go out of their way to keep El Marco or Jamari McDowell? Both those guys probably need change of scenery. So if that's the case, then you're talking about Cole. and a brand new team almost after that. Like, okay, it can. I think it can be done. It's not ideal. Michigan changed out a pretty decent amount. I talked about this earlier in the show, Mick, that 3 players on the Michigan roster this year played in that Sweet 16 loss last year. So only 3. And only 1 starter, but that was Burnett.
And none of them started at Michigan.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody started at Michigan there. The only player that's on this team that started at Michigan, I believe, is Trey McKinney.
And he's not a starter?
Yeah, he comes off the bench because he's a freshman. I believe that's the case. Did Roddy Gale start it? Nope, Roddy Gale was an Ohio State guy. We know Yaxel wasn't. We know Morrow was a transfer. Cadeau was a transfer. Mo Johnson was Illinois. I think Will Cheddar started at Michigan, and he's a 4-year player, though.
Does he start?
So, no, he's like their 7th or 8th guy. So, you got a couple of guys that started at Michigan, one being a freshman. So it can be done, but it's finding the right pieces to do that. I don't know what this offseason is going to look like. I really thought Tiller would be a priority. Like, I thought for Missouri and Kansas, the 2 priorities were Trent Pierce and Bryson Tiller were like the 2 guys I thought should be number 1 priorities to bring back. Missouri signed Trent Pierce. I don't know how much that is. I thought Bryson Tiller was going to get done, but maybe he wants a different role. I mean, that's part of it too. Maybe he wants more money, or maybe he wants to be highlighted as the guy. But also, like Bryson, if you want to be more of a pick and pop guy or do some different, is it easier now for you to play with a true point guard in TK? Because if TK is going to drive and kick, he needs somebody to kick to. Or if he's going to drive and draw the defense and dish, he needs somebody to dish to. That could be you. Or maybe it's just for the money. This offseason is going to more fascinating and more a bigger offseason for Kansas than it was last year.
19-20-year-olds, you tell, like, hey, what did you want when you were 19 and 20, Mick? 2 things.
Heck, you don't have to have $1 million for that. What kind of kids go to Kansas just for money? What type of kids that would play just for money would do that? As a 19 or 20-year-old.
Great poll, fellas.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
Office, pace, and space.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mick, who do you got tonight?
I don't think I can deny Michigan anymore.
Let me ask you this question, actually, because we started off the show with this. Were you more impressed with Michigan's domination or more disappointed in Arizona sort of turtling up and disappearing so quickly?
That was mostly Michigan, man. I mean, they shot like 80% in that second half. Like, I could not believe every shot that was going in. But they've done it all year long. They've done this all year long. And we picked last week, and I'm like, I got Arizona winning, but I don't feel great about it, even though they've been great in the tournament. And so, Michigan's, I think, that good. The only thing that gives me pause is this kind of destiny thing around UConn and how they've been there, done that with some of these players and with the coach, obviously, and what they're either out first weekend or they win the whole thing. But I'm going to go with what I've seen, and that's a Michigan team. Ever since that Vegas tournament, right, where they routed Gonzaga and everybody else by 30.
That's when it started.
They've been doing this to people. Whatever it is, every other team that gets up by 12 or 15 points on an opponent is going to relax and let a run come back at them. Michigan doesn't do that. They just hammer the gas pedal even more when they get up by 12 or 15. It's very impressive to see. So I'm going Wolverines tonight. And I mean, I'll cheer for them, I think. Yeah.
Avenge me. Wake Forest. Michigan beat Wake Forest in overtime by 1. They beat TCU by 4. And then they went to Vegas and beat San Diego State by 40, Auburn by 30, Gonzaga by 40, Rutgers by 41. They beat Villanova by 28, then Maryland by 20, LaSalle by 52, McNeese by 41, USC by 30, Penn State by 2.
100-60.
Yeah, Penn State by 2. Wisconsin, they lost at home by 3.
Wisconsin, yeah.
Washington 10, and then 14, and 12, and 3, and 12, and 50, and 21.
By 50 in conference.
Penn State. It was
After they beat
actually,
by 2?
It was actually 40. Yeah, they were like, okay, enough with that, Penn State. We beat you by 2. We ain't messing around with this one. We're going to beat you 110-69. Nice. And that's what they've done during this tournament. 21, 23, 13, 33, and then they led by 30 with 10 and a half minutes to
Point
go.
differential's got to be 28 a game this year. It's
unbelievable,
crazy.
man. Like, they were up 30 with 10 and a half minutes to go without Yaxel Lindenberg really playing.
Yeah.
I was like, I guess my opinion on Arizona is shaded by the fact that I was so anticipating that game and so looking forward to it. And I know Michigan's good, but I was just really annoyed at Arizona that it just felt like they got punched in the mouth and they were like, well, that's difficult to come back from. We've never been punched in the mouth like this. We really thought we were going to play well. This team is blitzing us. You guys ready to go home? We had a hell of a run. But, I mean, I really thought that was going to be an amazing game. And it wasn't. It was just an amazing performance by Michigan.
Looked like a women's Final Four game.
Yes,
Kidding me?
which we've seen some of that. Like yesterday. I mean, South
championship
Carolina
game
getting smoked.
against the powerhouse,
Yes.
Blue Blood in South Carolina women's basketball.
Yes,
Hammered.
and I mean, South Carolina last 2 years has been hammered in the championship game. UConn last year, and then UCLA this year. After hammering, who was it that they beat 3 years ago in the national championship game? So we'll take a timeout. We got Learn Funniest Best coming up next. Learn from the weekend, Funniest from the weekend, Best from the weekend. More Zone coming up next. All right, we got Learn Funniest Best here on this Monday edition, hanging out with Mick Schaefer, presented by Advent Health Sports Park at Blue Hawk. What we learned from the weekend, funniest from the weekend, and the best from the weekend. What I learned from the weekend, I learned that the Nationals also learned that Sorka Lewis, the young lady that they had before the game for the Washington Nationals, did not actually taste her first sip of beer. You see, Sorka Lewis was born the exact day that the Nationals opened up their ballpark. And so,
Sorka Lewis?
Sorka Lewis, yes, a young lady, 21 years old. She turned 21 yesterday, and the ballpark was opened up 21 years ago yesterday. So they had somebody there in attendance who turned 21 and was born on that day to have their sip of beer for the first time there at Nationals.
She chug it.
She chugged the entire thing. She downed the beer and then held up the beer and walked off the field.
Somebody better propose to her.
I'm like,
First time she ever sipped and she fell in love with it.
I don't know. I think along with the Nationals, learned that wasn't her first sip of beer. I don't think that's the first time that lady has had a beer. So yeah, that's one of the things that I learned from the weekend. I thought it was funny. I'm like, oh, let's see what happens. She goes, oh, gross, the acquired taste. No, she just downed the whole thing. What was your learn from the weekend, Sterling?
Rain has happened in 49 out of 89 Masters tournaments. There's been rain
some point.
in over half of them. Yeah, I was a little surprised with this.
Is that counting overnight rain or like during play?
I probably would assume during play. I will point out this year only a 20% chance of rain on Thursday, and that's the day with the highest chance of rain. So this looks like it would slightly buck the trend because the past 8 tournaments in a row have at least had a day with at least sprinkles.
Jack's tournament, the Memorial, it rains every year because it's supposedly on some sort of Indian burial ground or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's probably true.
Probably true.
That's probably the only reason it
no
does.
need to look it up.
Yeah,
But also,
I like it. I believe
pretty
you.
sure I'm right.
But also, if it doesn't rain, how are we supposed to get Mayflowers?
Well, the azaleas are blooming.
Well,
The dogwoods are flourishing.
Yeah, they are. What was the learn from the weekend, Mick?
I learned about active home run leaders against Major League Baseball teams, and it was very interesting to me. Do you guys know who the active home run leader is against the Royals?
The active home run leader against the Royals? Mm-hmm. I would assume Jose Ramirez has to be close.
I was going to say Jose Ramirez. That was going to be my guess, yeah.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Do you know who the active home run leader is against the Guardians then?
On the Royals roster?
Salvador Perez?
No, of anybody. Anybody, whoever they played, active home run, who's hit the most home runs against the Guardians?
Salvador Perez.
Salvador Perez.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do you know who has the most active home runs against the Tigers?
Salvi. Salvi kills Detroit, in Detroit especially. So
Incorrect.
Damn it. What about
Jose Ramirez?
Jose Ramirez.
What about in Detroit, though? Specifically in Detroit, I bet Salvi
Do you
has that.
know who has the most active home runs against the Twins?
That is Salvi.
Salvi. That's what I was.
Salvi.
That's what I was thinking
I'm
of.
4 for
The
4.
Tigers. Who was it that killed? There was a different player that killed the Tigers in Detroit, but Salvi kills the
Do you know
Twins.
who has the most active home runs against the White Sox?
Benintendi. Salvi.
It's going to be a joke. It's going to be something
Jose
like
Ramirez.
Jose Ramirez.
Miguel-
It's one of those two.
Miguel Sano.
The whole Central is Salvi or Jose?
Yes. The whole West, well, 4 of the 5 is one guy.
Mike Trout.
Mike Trout. Interesting. Of all the divisions, I think this is true. I skimmed it. Of all the divisions, there's only one team, and it's the Rays in the AL East, whose active leader is not within their division.
Mike Trout.
It's Mike Trout. Actually, there's Mike Trout.
Mike Trout.
So
It's pretty good.
so I found that interesting.
I need to figure out the player that I remember just killing the Tigers on the road every year.
That was a poacher.
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Makes sense. It was just for game. What was the learn for you from the weekend, Michael?
I just learned that new North Carolina men's basketball coach Michael Malone's daughter Bridget is on their volleyball team
At North Carolina?
at North Carolina.
Well, that's interesting because Bill Belichick's fiance is on the football team.
They might be the same age.
How about that? Yeah, they
Might be the
went to
same
high
age.
school together. They were best friends.
Wow, Michael Malone has to make sure that Bill Belichick isn't in meetings with his daughter. Because that's the age pool.
You're talking about a volleyball player? That's going the Bobby Petrino route, though.
Oh, yeah.
Bobby
No
went the volleyball-
motorcycles.
Yeah, Bobby went the volleyball player that happened to be engaged to the strength and conditioning coach, which isn't the smartest tact to take if you're going to.
You're be engaged, make it an accountant or something like that.
Yeah, but also like if you're gonna have a girl, maybe her husband isn't the strength and conditioning
I'm
coach.
saying, make him
an accountant.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. Yeah, for sure.
Also, maybe just don't do that.
Well, yeah, that's the first one.
No.
But the second part is don't do that. Sterling, funniest from the weekend.
Went and got hibachi.
That is so freaking great. Oh, I laugh every time hibachi is brought up.
Was there more to that story?
Woo!
And we're all ordering, how would you like your steaks cooked? And we're like medium rare, medium rare, medium rare. And then some guy goes,
Some medium rare. Oh, okay, go ahead.
some guy goes medium well.
Let's go.
And
medium well.
medium well.
The chef just goes, beef jerky, and went on the next person. It's pretty good. I'm not doing the accent, of course, but
That's good. I did the Patrick Mahomes one.
But yeah, it was-
medium well and some ketchup.
I'm well done. They would have hated me
Wait, why?
because I don't like it the other ways. And in my mouth, I want it that way.
Oh my goodness.
That's
He's
why.
talking about steak, Michael.
Yeah.
I don't mind that,
Yeah,
dude.
That's why.
Jeez Louise,
Because
Michael.
that's how I.
He's talking about the way he cooks his steak.
Yep.
No, this is a
I don't-
steak.
I don't
At the
get-
hilarious
then why wouldn't
hibachi.
you
When I
just
taste
get
it,
beef
when I taste it,
jerky?
it's better. Beef jerky, it's a totally different texture.
Well, well done
and
steak.
different, like
Beef
animal
jerky. It was the same animal.
parts of the animal.
Yeah, if it's still a same animal.
Yeah, one part is the
Well,
jerky
deer
of the animal.
jerky. I was thinking.
Well, deer
but
jerky's
yeah.
good too, but man,
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Perplexed? Are you flummoxed and perplexed?
You seem like a medium rare guy, like
Oh
the-
God,
thought
no,
for
no,
sure
I
you
want it
would.
dead.
I'd say
dead.
just
Dead and gone.
rip the horns off, cut it up, put it in front of me.
No pink.
Yeah, just take a lighter to the bottom, take a lighter to each side, and then.
I thought
no,
you
I
were.
don't do that. No, I am medium well or a medium rare plus.
What does that mean?
He's the worst, dude.
No.
No.
If you go to a steakhouse that doesn't know medium rare plus, then don't get the steak there. It's actually a test.
Never heard that.
Yeah, it's
right to be-
it's the best, but no
Are
one's.
you one of those guys
Yes.
when you order? Oh my God.
No, I
Yeah,
get medium
it's
rare
just-
plus.
What is it? Are you going to tell
It's
anybody what
between
it is?
medium rare and medium.
It's when he wears his ascot.
How many
It's when
levels?
he's.
That's very finite
That's
way
the
to
point.
cook. Okay.
So if they're like, I don't know what that is, well, I'll get something else. I
Will you
won't get
be
the
able to
steak.
tell?
Your silk napkin, sir.
Will you be able to tell the difference between medium well and medium well plus, or the difference between medium well plus and medium?
No, like I said,
You won't be able to tell the
it's a
difference.
test. If they don't know what it is, then they don't know how to cook a steak. So I'm not going to get a steak from that restaurant.
Oh my gosh! What do you get? Chicken strips after that?
Something else, probably. That's probably the route I would go. Yes.
Also went 4 for 4 catching shrimps.
Props to you.
Yeah.
How about that, man?
Credit to me for
Man.
Great.
good at catching.
How many?
man.
How many bush
Is there
lights do
anything
you
you're
have?
not good at?
I
mean, in your stories.
Soccer.
In your
I'm really
stories.
bad at soccer.
Yeah.
Like hilariously bad at soccer. Yeah.
You're good at catching strays too, for some reason.
I don't know why.
Funniest from the weekend for you, Mick?
Mets announcers doing a Cardinals game in St. Louis.
The only thing missing from that picture, as is often missing from every picture we show of downtown St. Louis, no people.
No people. Well, you know, they want it to look picturesque. You can see a car driving by on the right. That's the only sign of life.
But there's never anybody walking around
No, there
in
is
downtown
not.
St.
It's
Louis.
not very often. You're right.
It's like, remember the old neutron bomb that wouldn't knock down buildings but just would eliminate all the people? It's like one of those hit St. Louis.
I guess it's just a photo op. People then run and hide, so they're not in the photo.
That's what happened to St. Louis. Neutron bomb.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I love ripping on St. Louis.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And it's accurate.
Yeah.
too.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that downtown stadium not worked?
I don't know.
But here's the thing: I was
might be
told.
other issues.
I'm old enough to remember when I was told that no matter what, they would sell out games. It doesn't have to be a competitive team on the field. That they would, even if they lost 100 games, they would sell out every game. Like I'm old enough to remember that baseball's best fans would show up every game, and they're the better fans than the Royals because Royals are fair weather
They're not
fans.
even Rockies fans.
Royals are fair weather fans, and if they're good or bad, it depends on if Royals fans show up. Cardinals fans, they can be bad, and they would sell out the games. I'm old enough to remember when that was at least claimed. It's interesting. Although that was while they were winning 90 and 100 games every year.
2011 when they, with David Freese doing those things.
Yeah. Easier to say
Before
then.
or after the most recent football team left.
Yes. Michael, funniest from the weekend for you?
My funniest is a tweet from Scott Pollard. He's a great follow on Twitter if you haven't already done it.
He's good.
Watching the new Mario Brother movie with my wife and son, and let me tell you, I'd rather watch 15 dogs blank on my lawn.
That's a good line.
So good.
My daughter wants to watch that Mario movie so bad.
Means though, we could go a couple different routes on that.
Crap. But not 16.
Okay.
Right.
15 is the max. Once it gets to 16, you're like, it's too much.
That's true.
You got to hire someone to pick that up.
Funniest for me is, I got a couple things. I'll go with the first one, and that the game plan for the Angels, or not the Angels, but the Mariners, game plan for the Mariners after the Joe Adele game, they wrote on the whiteboard, game plan, don't hit the ball to Joseph Adele. And everybody reminded the Mariners, there's a 0% chance you were going to hit the ball to Joseph Adele because his name is Jordan Adele. Joe is short for Jordan, not Joseph. And if you don't know, then just put Joe. Just put Joe Adele. And I tweeted that out, and one of my followers says, my wife used to work with Joe's mom, so I sent this to her, and she sent a text that says, I don't know who Joseph Adele is, but I know a Joe who's wanted for robbery. That was Joe's mom. It's pretty good. And my other funniest is Mick's dream from the other night.
Be told to other people during a commercial break.
I'm excited to learn
Adele
about this.
was rolling in the deep out there in the outfield.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was.
And he would say, every time he caught it, he would look at the bat and say, hello.
He would skyfall over the wall.
It's me.
It's me.
That's right.
He set fire to the rain. That's why it was so dry.
That's right.
Yep.
All that stuff.
Let's go to the best. We start with Mick Schaefer, best from the weekend.
Went to the Royals game, and my buddy did the hot dog race. And I'm wondering if I should do, if I was Sterling, not in Sterling, like do Sterling.
Did you know about this?
I was at the Royals. Game with my boys. And my bro.
That's not my funniest from the weekend.
My bro suited up as ketchup. Just torched it. Just killed it. Ripped off a hot dog race.
Punked everybody in their dome.
Yeah. What do you say when you bet on somebody? When you bet hard on
ripping?
I ripped a bet for ketchup.
I ripped ketchup.
Yeah. I didn't because he's like 47 and the two kids running against him were like low 20s. So he got third, but it was close.
Oh,
it was close. Some relish just blew it out of the water.
So your boy lost.
My boy lost.
Didn't rip him.
We ripped him. We gave him, but he was slamming so many brewskis beforehand. Yeah.
Decent.
Yes.
Decent.
That's my funniest from the weekend. Best for you from the weekend, Michael?
It had to be Joe Adele robbing 3 home runs. And then,
pretty good.
I don't know if you saw it, May and Hurley, they call it head high five or head bump. They had an interview before the championship, and they just decided to go noggin to noggin with each other.
Like Dan Hurley and the referee?
No, Dusty May.
No, I'm saying like Dan Hurley and the referee did with Braylon.
Braylon Mullins.
Interesting. Okay. So there you go. That seemed right up the alley of Danny Hurley. I'll take Dusty May in that match, though. Although, you know what?
No, I'm taking
I'll take Danny Hurley because he's going
street.
He'll use whatever's around him. Yeah, he'll bite him and
St. Anthony's not a good area.
Yeah, no.
He grew up tough.
I changed quickly.
Yeah.
I'll take Danny.
He's
Hurley
not a fake tough
one.
guy.
No, he's real.
Yeah, and growing up with his dad, he probably can't be a fake tough guy. The best for me from the weekend wasn't the weekend; it was late last week, so I'm going to skirt the rules a little bit. Best for me since I've was out of town. That counts.
Yeah, I skirt the rules all the time. You have to throw out a disclaimer.
Dan Orlovsky on Autism Awareness Day. I did not realize that Dan Orlovsky's kid was autistic, and they had him on, and he went through and was talking about his favorite movies and his favorite toy, and it was Toy Story. And then his son started singing "You've Got a Friend in Me" on ESPN. It was awesome. He
tears up every time.
Yeah, it was
everybody
so cool,
does every
man.
time. Yeah.
And they went to break. So that was my best from the week end. Best for you, Sterling?
Yeah, going to the Royals, get my boys. My boy was Relish, ripped it.
Your boy
That makes sense.
in your face, ketchup.
The kid that was relish was 21 years old, so it makes sense. That's who you hang out with.
Honestly, best was yesterday. Played 36 holes of golf. It was great. Woke up, played 18 holes. Beautiful day. Played 18. Went to the gym to work out. Some guys in there said, "Hey, we got a tea time later on.
Nice,
You want to
yeah.
swing through and join us?" I said, "Hey,
pump
You were
on.
bros being
got
bros.
you.
I feel like maybe boys being boys.
So yeah, it was
You
lovely.
know.
Played 36 holes. Played like buns, but it was
Yeah.
fun.
Broke out the wrenches, then got my pump on, then went out there for another 18.
I saw you did a fit check.
Strong. You like that?
No. Well, I mean, it's fine. All the female reporters at my station do the same thing whenever they have a nice outfit on.
Yeah, it was nice.
I've never seen a boy do it, though.
It was a turtleneck
I know.
and the
And then a
tartan
fedora,
pants.
like a little
not
Peaky Blinder.
Peaky Blinders. Said I went really old school, like 1940s.
Does that fit? I mean, at Brookridge, are they allowed no collar like that?
That's a
They allow
turtleneck.
that? But is that
That's not a collar, though.
That's a collar. What would you call a turtleneck?
A
I call
turtleneck.
this a bandit. This is a collar. I mean, you got a collar, some sort of collar. Every shirt has a collar.
Well,
Every shirt is
turtleneck
a
is
collar.
allowed.
You sure about that?
Well, I didn't get
I mean,
called.
did you?
They liked
I mean,
it.
They did?
Yeah, they liked it.
Who's they?
The
Pro
shop.
shop.
Yeah.
Everybody got together and said, "How much? Hey, we like this a lot."
It's interesting. I was in there right
Interesting.
after
Wow.
you, and the Snickers were not telling me that they liked
Right,
it.
'cause I
There
ate
was-
those.
There was a lot of laughing, a lot of joking about the guy who's making sure his neck is warm.
Yeah, did
out
you?
there.
It was a little chilly in the morning, though.
Yeah,
Did
but
you
it was.
buy those clothes when you were in high school? Because it looked like you've grown since then.
I've grown a little
pretty,
bit.
They're pretty tight.
I've grown a little bit. Well,
Yeah.
dude, the thing is, when
You
put
bought those
Cotton-
your size now?
cotton shrinks in the dryer a good amount, and that's not the move. Yeah.
So used to they were bigger on you, is what you're saying?
Yeah, they're
Or do you just kind of like it when it's really tight? That
shrunk
pants
both.
and
I'm
short
trying
things?
to give people a show.
Yeah.
But
Like Michael said, I thought you were trying to shrink the game, not your clothes. All right, what do we got tonight? I'm going to go Michigan minus the
got
points.
to. What is the
6.5.
spread? My final bet, I don't think it's going to make up. I'm down about $60. I don't think it's going to make up one $5 bet.
You know what? You only lost $60 by betting all these games in the NCAA tournament. You had
Usually
fun.
I'm winning
If you bet like
so.
$30 on UConn and they win, you'll be up.
I know how math works, but the deal is $5 for every game to see how it ends up, and it's not ended up. That first day I peaked.
But you've bet every single game and you're only down 60. Not bad.
$5, yeah.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. So you had a good time. I'll take Michigan minus the points. Sterling?
I'll be dumb.
Okay.
Connecticut down the nets.
Okay.
UConn.
Right on, man. I'm going Michigan, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either way, boys.
Michael?
Michigan.
Yeah. We'll see.
Scotty Scheffler. That's my pick.
Oh, that's right.